Peace, family. Thank you for making it. Of course, I'm PRiZM, Chosen Zulu, and today we wanted to have a discussion about hip hop history, the culture, the elements, the virtues, and we have a few people that I invited, special guests, because I wanted their insight and I wanted their participation. Um, First, we have my partner, the man who helped me start this organization over 25 years ago, Asa Manuel Oquendo from the Bronx, New York. He is joining us today, so thank you for making it, brother. I always appreciate that. Also, we have Brother Pluto. Thank you for making it. Brother Pluto is a brother that has a lot of information on hip hop history, especially the b-boy culture. So I'm always glad to have his opinion, his feedback, and his knowledge. And of course, Coach Mix from the Philippines. Sorry, Brother Pluto, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Thank you, brother. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Blessings to everyone.
Thank you. And then Coach Mix, also from the Philippines, who was very helpful and instructional, and I had a lot of information on the Philippines conference that we did. So thank you for attending it. I know it's a different time zone there, so it's a pleasure to have your presence. Thank you.
Good morning.
So,
good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm good.
All right. So I know you guys got a lot of the information or some of the information on the conference that we did for the Philippines, which was very successful. We met a lot of brothers and sisters out there doing wonderful things, and I'm really trying to get their community together. We learned a lot about the Philippines, even in the sense that it's a lot like the five boroughs where when they first started, where they're all separate and doing their own thing and dealing with their own issues. And that's how a lot of the islands are over there. And she gave us a lot of background on their hip hop history as well. So it's part of what we're trying to do, not just put the Bronx's version of hip hop history, because yeah, that's where it started, but the culture's history and how it spread to other places as well. So what we're doing today, we're going to give you guys a brief introduction to what we've been sharing with Chosen Zulu over the past 25 years and how we sort of put together a structure and the fundamentals of hip hop, sort of like when they teach you mathematics. First, you learn addition, then you learn subtraction, then you learn multiplication, then you learn division, and so on and so forth. We try to put together in the basic fundamentals. So just to give you a little background on me and of course my partner Asa, we came from the Universal Zulu Nation. We joined in the early 90s, and around 1993, we started our own chapter, Chapter 33. We had the benefit of learning and being amongst a lot of the pioneers of the culture who were there from the beginning, including TC Islam, Lucky Strike, Africa Bambaataa, DJ Yoda, members of the Cold Crush and Crash Crew and Funky 4+1, and so many more that us growing up and doing security and participating in a lot of the hip hop anniversaries, almost 20 in a row between 1990 and 2010, where we either worked or did security or promotion or coordinated. We got to be present for a lot of the meetings and the discussions that these pioneers had. We got to pick their brains and ask them questions and sort of how to put this away in a structure that we can start teaching and breaking down and sharing with other people. So what we have there is a few images that I would like to share with you, and I'll sort of giving you a basic introduction. First, the way we are reintroducing this through our group is through chosenzulu.com. Around, like I said, in 93, we started Chapter 33. In 1998, we realized that we were doing things a little bit differently than a lot of the other Zulu chapters. So we decided to become Chosen Incorporated, to start building our own identity and start putting together our own community networks and groups of community organizations, school programs, Board of Education, police commissions, martial arts instructors, and networks to start to build a coalition to start bringing different ways and different programs to the community and to the youth, so that way we can give them more options than just saying don't sell drugs or don't get in the gang. But we can say, instead of don't sell drugs and don't get in the gang, join this, go to this after school program, go to that after school program, come to our event, come to our program, and start giving them alternatives. So Chosen Zulu ended up becoming Chosen Incorporated. And as we grew and expanded with more groups, we ended up becoming Chosen Networks Incorporated. So Chosen Networks is now the company that teaches knowledge and stuff to young adults and teens all over the world. We've been doing it since, 25 years. After everything happened with sort of the Zulu Nation and hold on, I got a few people here I gotta let in. After, you know, allegations came out that made it questionable whether or not youth or young adults were safe in the care of Zulu Nation, we decided to re-emerge our program as Chosen Zulu, not only to teach the true way of a Zulu, the things that saved our lives and got us off the street and taught us to have pride in this culture, but also as an alternative to teach everybody the hip hop culture and what we're really supposed to be educating, to pass this on, sort of like the griots of our culture. And what we're doing here is not trying to open up another membership organization, but to create a coalition that creates more griots, more of us that have this knowledge and this information to pass it on to the next generation, right? So let me make this full screen for you guys. All right, can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody see everything okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, brother.
All right. So as I mentioned, we all realize that hip hop is not something that was just born overnight. At Chosen Zulu, we teach that this is something that came from our ancestry, from Africa, from Egypt, from the Caribbean, from South America, from the ancients of time. These cultures, these ciphers, these ways of celebrating, these ways of bringing the community together have always existed. And hip hop came together in a time around 1973 where our people didn't really have anything. There were no music programs, there were no after school programs. Buildings were getting torn down and destroyed all around us, and that became our playgrounds. And we had no way of affording instruments or music. So somebody had the idea to start sampling music and start creating our own culture. And from that, these elements that already existed, right? Graffiti already existed. They were already doing political statements on the wall, right? Forms of b-boying and dancing already existed. DJs already existed. They hosted the parties and played the music. But it was around 73 when these elements came together under the guise of some of the forefathers and father figures of the culture, like Disco King Mario, like Kool Herc, like Africa Bambaataa, like Grandmaster Flash, like Grand Wizard Theodore. These men ended up being able to bring these elements together, and that's when it became the culture of hip hop. And that was just the beginning. Disco King Mario is one of the men that we teach a lot about because he sort of created the environment with his 21 Days of Summer and block parties and the parties at 123 and being able to get the Audubon Ballroom when nobody else could and giving access to people like Kool Herc and Bam and the UZN and so on and so forth. He sort of paved the way, but he's Disco King Mario because hip hop wasn't a thing yet. It wasn't until the following men or the other men that I mentioned brought it together that it ended up becoming hip hop as we know it. All right, so today what we're going to discuss briefly is the different aspects of hip hop, and that sort of addresses what people say or what they mean when they say what is hip hop, the elements of hip hop, the virtues of hip hop, which is something I feel that should always be discussed, the pioneers of hip hop, and the eras of hip hop. Some of you may recognize this as the ad that we had put together to advertise for this meeting today. This was a way of sort of passing on, not just with the image, but with the feeling of it, the fact that we are passing on this sort of Jedi type of knowledge, this information that for whatever reason is still not public knowledge, is still not taught every day in school. Like just like Black history had to have a month in order to educate it, we had to have a month for hip hop, November, in order to start educating on it. And even then, it's only doing so much. So we try to put it together in the basic fundamentals, the elements, the virtues, the pioneers, and the eras. So what we mean when we say the aspects of hip hop is when people say, what is hip hop? There are so many ways that you can answer that, whether it's a feeling or a way of life or where you come from or a vibe or music. We teach 4 aspects of that, right? So first, we teach that hip hop is a music, it's a form of music. And that was born out of the basic 5 elements that began the music of the culture. Some of you may recognize this is the new hip hop logo that we put out for the Chosen Zulu website. And this is an image meant to sort of teach in one image, not only the hip hop music, but the culture. Everybody hear me okay? Everybody see the images okay?
I'm good over here.
All right. So in the center of this image, you notice we have the core elements. On the top left, you have the DJ, right? The DJ is considered the backbone of the culture because it was DJs like Kool Herc that first figured out we could put the break beats together and started setting the part where right under that is the B-boy, where the B-boy was the original star of the party. The music was catering to the B-boys and the dancers. And that was where the B-boy showcased his skill and his unique ability to dance. Across from the B-boy, you see the B-girl, because it's an equally divided culture, and it's not divided in the sense that there's separation, but in the fact that women have played an integral part in the music of hip hop, including the fact that the first hip hop record was actually put out by a woman, Sylvia Robinson. And say what you can about her, she was the one that had the foresight to say, let me figure out how to put this on record and sell it. You know, so women are integral to the culture of hip hop as a whole. And then there's the first female MCs and the queens and so many more that played a role, not just for women, but they elevated the culture. Like Roxanne Shante sort of was one of the pioneers of battle rap. It became a thing after she started doing it. And it happened before she did it, but it became a thing. It became popular and notable after she started doing it. She played an integral role, right? So of course that brings us to above on the top right, the MC. The MC was born when the DJ got so busy with his hands that he couldn't also host the party. In the beginning, Kool Herc, right? Grandmaster Flash, Grand Wizard Theodore, they were the host of the party. But when they started getting so busy with mixing and cutting and scratching and blending, they had to have somebody else host the party. That was the birth of the MC. People like Busy Bee and Tila Rock were some of the first that started putting rhymes together and some of the phrases that we still know to this day, right? Then you have on the bottom left is the element of graffiti. Graffiti, like I said, existed since ancient times, since cave painting, since the hieroglyphics. But it was when it came together with the culture of hip hop that it became graffiti as we know it, with the hip hop, with the styles, with the flares, with the intricacies, with the colors, with the details. And that's sort of like our modern day hieroglyphics. And that started from the beginning when they started putting graffiti on their clothes or graffiti on the background or their banners. It was always part of what we put it together in the beginning. It came together, especially after the movie Wild Style and movies like that started to make it more popularly known. It became an element that was expressed similarly all over the world. And then I have right there on the bottom right is the symbol for the representation of beatboxers. Now, it's one of the conversations I've had with pioneers like Africa Bambaataa as far as hip hop music, right? The music part of it, beatboxing is part of that. Because in the beginning, we weren't all DJs. We couldn't all sample the records and all that. So when we left the party, we beatboxed to emulate what we heard the DJ do, right? So for me, especially coming up in the 90s and 80s, getting into hip hop heavily because I started to learning this, beatbox was the way we can access it anywhere. And then of course, back then we had the cassette tape where we could finally start recording it off the radio. And that was our way, if we didn't have turntables, how we could start capturing hip hop and duplicating it. Now, as you notice, there's also a reflection in the cross sections of these elements, right? So DJing is the manifestation of making the music with your hands. And that evolved into producing, right? So people say the art of DJing is lost, but it actually in some ways evolved into producing because the DJ was the original producer. And then as technology evolved, he didn't have to physically cut the records anymore. He could sample it into a sampler or a computer program and then start creating beats on his own. That is right across from the beatbox, which was the physical way of us making the music, right? So you have the MC on the top right, which is the way we expressed the picture and painted the picture with our words and told the story. And across from that, you have graffiti, which is the way we did it with our hands. And then of course, on the left, you have the B-boy, and on the right, the B-girl. These are the core elements of hip hop music. And because that information started to catch and people started to know about it, hip hop knowledge, as you see on the outer rim, became the first element of hip hop culture, right? It started as a music in the Bronx, in Bronxdale, and then to Bronx River, and then so on and so forth. But it became a culture when the knowledge of how to do that and how to put it together began to spread from borough to borough, city to city, state to state, so on and so forth. And along with that hip hop knowledge came the hip hop language, the way that we spoke, the way that we expressed ourselves, and the hip hop fashion, the way that we dressed and expressed ourselves, and then hip hop business, how we figured out in the beginning how to start making money off of it, whether it was by selling tickets to the party or cash competitions for the open mic contest or recording it on cassette tapes and then selling those cassette tapes. Once other people, other businesses started figuring out that we could make money on it, they started figuring out how they could make money on it. And that gave birth to the third aspect, right? So we have hip hop music is the first aspect, hip hop culture is the second aspect, and then the business gave way to the hip hop industry, which is now $1 billion industry that we don't control and we don't own. But the beauty of this is that in a time when we had nothing and dilapidation and degradation all around us, including diseases and drugs and violence and all of that, we created this as a way to get ourselves out of that. Understand? We created this as a way to finally maybe be able to make some money besides selling drugs or robbing or stealing. And these are the things that gave us the ability to become resourceful as a people, as a culture. And this way we could start to grow and start to develop our own. Now, it's this basic understanding of the hip hop culture, the hip hop music, and the hip hop industry that is just the premise to what can happen when we start putting together what we learn from our own experience, from our own history, from our own culture. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Everybody agree? And any opinions or feedback? I would greatly appreciate it.
I would say the interesting thing about beatboxing is that beatboxing is interchangeable between a DJ and an MC. It's relative to both of those elements of culture because, you know, there's times where, you know, MCs don't have DJs, so somebody can beatbox. And then there's sometimes where DJs were accompanying MCs, but, you know, if you're out on the block, if you're somewhere and you don't have your equipment or a radio or anything, you beatbox. So beatboxing is interesting because, you know, you had some DJs who were beatboxers and you had some MCs who were beatboxers, and then you had guys who were just straight up beatboxers.
Right. True.
Which, you know, I thought was very, very interesting. You know, I don't know if people are aware of that, but I just want to just touch on that.
No, I absolutely agree, definitely. And for me, it also relates to the B-boys. Because again, when we didn't have a radio, somebody would beatbox and we would get a cardboard box and we would break dance on it. You know what I mean? So for me, it's part of what hip hop music, it was an essential part of the way the rest of us, especially before the fire, and especially those of us that couldn't afford it after the fire, we didn't have turntables and we couldn't use our parents' stereos like that. So beatboxing was the way that we could practice and write our rhymes or think of new beats or, you know, practice our B-boy moves.
Oh, hell no, I'm turning my thing off. Stop video.
Peace, sister. Glad you made it.
It's
all right. So in summary, this is an example that we sort of put together as a poster that we could put out, and we do have the poster for sale. We have the link on the link rather on our Chosen Zulu Facebook page as well as chosenzulu.com. But this is something we wanted to put together as a colorful poster that we could share this information, the elements of hip hop music, DJing, MCing, B-boys, B-girls, graffiti, and beatboxing, plus the elements of knowledge, language, fashion, and business is what equals the culture as a whole.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, this is an elemental sort of table to show the elements of hip hop, how they all exist together, how this creates the culture of hip hop. This is a symbol that we put together to represent and remind us that hip hop is and always has been a culture of peace, right? All of these elements all fuse together, but they all fuse together with what we consider an element, but it can also be considered a virtue, but peace was part of it. And the simplest way to explain that in the basis form is that when you DJ the party and you're doing an event, as soon as somebody said, he got a gun or fight, the party stopped, right? You couldn't do hip hop and violence at the same time. As soon as violence happened at the party, hip hop stopped. And that's a simple yet crude way to remind us that hip hop always is and always was a culture of peace. And it was always supposed to be in an environment where we could foster the youth and protect them and teach them how to tap into their own elements and skills and shine. Hip hop was a place where even, you know, not to use such a crude term, but even the crackheads could come out and shine when they start popping and locking to the music and whatnot. And everybody forget it was crackhead Ronnie for a second and just see him popping and locking and having fun. Hip hop was always meant to be a culture of peace. And this is one of the things where that includes protecting our youth and our women and our young men and our adults and teaching them how to protect themselves and teaching them how to recognize potential dangers and threats, whether it be friend or foe or corporations or police or the system. This is what hip hop taught. This is how the old brother on the block hit up the young brothers in the neighborhood and told them, you need to watch out because this is how Popo treats you, and this is how the government treats you, and this is how they look at you, and this is what they expect you to do. We need to be them brothers and sisters out there again. We need to be the culture that is out there on the streets like the 5%ers or the Black Panthers or the Young Lords or the Guardian Angels or, and for a long while, the UZN was taking the place of that. And it's because of a lot of groups like that that became part of the foundation of the hip hop culture, those pioneers, which we'll get into in a moment, is how this culture spread around the world. If hip hop was the color yellow, this is how hip hop spread around the world, because of these elements, because of the culture and the people that pioneered this and decided to start passing this on and spreading it from city to city and place to place. This shows how we are all part of the same culture. I don't care if you're from Brazil or you're from Africa or if you're from Russia or you're from Europe. If you're part of the hip hop culture, this is our nation. This is what we're all part of. This is a bigger story than just New York or just America or just North America. It's a worldwide story, and it's growing every day with the artists and the iconic individuals, whether they B-boys or DJs or beatboxers that are winning these competitions and taking things to new level. They are part of the continuing story. These are ways that we want to sort of, if it's the word, chronologize it, you know what I mean? Put it together in a time format so we can see where it came from. Like one of the things I do with the youth is I remind them is that, for example, a rapper, like when you ask them, who's your favorite rapper? And they say Lil Yachty, and you're like, that's the best rapper you know? Who's Lil Yachty's favorite rapper? And they'll be like, I don't know. And it might be somebody like Tupac. You're like, you got to listen to the rapper that influenced him. Listen to Tupac. And now they hear Tupac and they hear where he got his influence from. And you're like, who was Tupac's favorite rapper? They're like, I don't know, Melly Mel. They're like, who's Melly Mel? And you listen to him and you hear the influence. And this is how we take them back and expose them to other variations, not just what they're hearing on the radio in the last 3 months. But again, it's on us. You know, the radio's not going to do it. The TV's not going to do it. School's not going to do it. And most people don't know enough to be able to pass this on. We are the griots of this culture. And this is why I invited specifically certain individuals that I knew either play this role where they come from or are aspiring to be a part of the next level of teachers and recruiters in this culture. And much love to the brothers and sisters from the Philippines. They're working hard to get things done. A lot of them on this call. I appreciate all you and your hard work. Thank you for your support. Now, this is a brief image to show what we started teaching on years ago. And I think we were one of the first, if not the first, the virtues of hip hop, right? So as a brief example, we teach that hip hop in the beginning, we all know, was heavily influenced by martial arts in its early years. You can see that in many of the original B-boy movies, right? So all of us coming up when we were younger, we were watching the Kung Fu flicks on Saturdays or Sunday mornings, wherever you were, you know what I mean? So we started to adapt it, and you can see it in the B-boy cycle. You can see it in the MC cycle. Even in the DJ battles, it was point for point. You know what I mean? Until that's it, you're going to get sound out, demolished, KO. You know what I mean? The whole format of what we did was greatly influenced by that. And these are some of the virtues. Some you may recognize were put into songs. The first ones were peace, unity, love, and having fun. That was the core of this culture. But those are virtues. This is what it taught us. But it also taught us work. We had to work at our craft and our art and our style and our skill and whatever it was. We had to have integrity. We didn't want to be known as a biter. We didn't want to sound like nobody else. We didn't want ourselves to look like nobody else. These are the virtues that it originally instilled on us. You know, practice. You couldn't just come out and be a freestyle rapper all the time. You had to have some good songs. You have to have some good verses with punchlines. B-boys can't always freestyle. They have to go home and practice their moves and make sure they got it right so they don't break their neck in public the first time they try it. You know, discipline to make the time to say, look, I got to go work at the supermarket part-time because I'm only 14, 15 years old. But after that, I'm going to work 3 hours on my B-boy move, or I'm going to write some raps to that verse, or whatever it is. That discipline, passion for it. And like the example I used before, it's not like when your parents are trying to force you to play the violin. Go practice for 3 hours right now, and you don't want to do it. You have a passion for this. You want to do this. You want to finesse it. You want to get inspired by something that Legs or Speedy or somebody did and take it up to the next level, because they could have did this move after that, and it would have been dope if they did. This is what these examples, and we can go on and on. These are just an example. I'm sure we can all think, even business skills and how to manage and market ourselves. You know, how to present ourselves in public, where the original MC groups and B-boys had uniforms and outfits, and make sure they were able to get on the Jay Leno show and the Tonight Show. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy when you think in the 80s, these brothers did enough that they were on the Tonight Show. They were on, you know, doing special events for President Ronald Reagan. And this was when they were in their teens in the early 80s. But it was because of these virtues that they practiced and they instilled and they represented when they did it, that wowed and amazed the country. Because these are kids from the ghetto, but look at what they finessed and they created and how they're conducting themselves. And they might not be the best verbally, be able to speak and be entertaining, but you can see their passion and their heart and everything that they do. And that's what gave way for a lot of us to do things and inspire us. Like, even though I might not have built my career in hip hop, it inspired me to carry myself a certain way and conduct myself in a certain way, is what we've always called ourselves, guardians of the hip hop culture, being able to pass this information and this knowledge on. So these are the things that not only we want to say, it's not final, nothing we say is final, or this is the only way to teach it. This is just the way that we teach it and share it. There are many ways to teach it, but we try to put it in categories like addition and subtraction and multiplication and division, so it's easy for you to see, understand, comprehend. And Brother Malik one, I'm not sure if you were able to make it. Are you on the call? All right, I don't see him here. I mentioned him because Brother Malik one not only was instrumental in building of the Temple of Hip Hop and the formation of the Declaration of Hip Hop Peace that was brought to the United Nations. He's also the author of a great book that I recently got my hands on called Peace in the Time of War. Now, this book is basically a book to the hip hop citizens about how to conduct our lives, how socio-political events have not only affected us, but how we affect those events as well, how we can carry ourselves as citizens of the hip hop culture. And the Declaration of Peace is sort of like our Constitution, you know? So that's something that we definitely, I don't have enough time to cover it all today, but we're definitely going to be building more on the Declaration of Peace. And he was one of the guys that was instrumental in defining that and researching it and putting it together. So he's definitely going to be somebody that we're going to be building more with. But I think it's also part of this area where we talk about the virtues of hip hop, because the Declaration of Peace sort of embodies that and how we should conduct ourselves in each of those aspects. Then I put together a sample image of how you can see that as far as B-boys, how they conducted, the MCs, how they conducted themselves in a rap battle, where it's point for point, blow for blow, and there's judges, the score, just like a Taekwondo competition or a karate competition. And these are the ways that we sort of emulate it when we're acting out the elements, but it's also the ways we're supposed to represent it when we're acting out our lives. When I went to my work in my office, they knew. I walked in the office, I'm like, peace. The whole office is like, peace. They knew I represented the hip hop culture, but I conducted myself professionally, did what I had to do. I was articulate, got the promotions, not because I kissed ass, but because I was confident in who I was. And I knew what I was capable of doing, because hip hop taught me you can do anything you put your mind to. If you want to do it and you got a passion for it, you can make it happen. I had a passion for wanting to be successful, so I did what was necessary to be successful, but always being original, always bringing unique, and always bringing my culture with me. These are the things that we're trying to teach today, where they don't have to be ghetto or hood to represent hip hop. They can represent hip hop and be professional, respected young men and women. These are the ways that we can pass that on to the next generation. Anybody's input would be greatly, whatever you feel the virtues, the principles, discuss with me.
I definitely second what you were saying, you know, because it is about us being like the gatekeepers of a lot of this stuff, and articulating this into narratives to show the world that, you know, that we are articulate, we are intelligent, and we can present intelligent things, and that we don't have to be baby fed or told how to direct ourselves. I think now is one of the greatest times for the culture, because I've gotten countless conversations of telling people that like we are like the liaison between the generations of we're young enough, but we're old enough to know in between and articulate this stuff through the narratives of social media and technology. And we can use these things as a tool, use these things as chess pieces to elevate ourselves and to graduate into, more lucrative narratives based off of our efforts and our knowledge and our ingenuity. Because I've gotten a lot of people come up to me and ask me about, well, what are your thoughts on, what's going on with the Olympics situation in the whole nine. And at first, this is a 4-year situation. For 4 years ago, I really didn't care about it. I really didn't, really bother with it because, I was, busy, with the things that I was working on. But and like in the past year, I started to see, certain things that a lot of people were saying, well, it should stay in a certain way or it should be presented in a certain way. And I was like, well, you have to understand that regardless of what happens, it's going to happen. So this could be like the way things were in the 80s all over again. So we have to, since it's going to happen regardless, instead of us complaining about it, we need to put ourselves in these positions so that, they could totally understand what we're doing. And once we're in those positions to show that what we are doing, it keeps things from looking too corporate or them understanding us. And that allows a lot of other narratives to go. Like right now, we are in a position to really navigate things into businesses, if you can see it. That's just one aspect. But, but also the first and foremost thing before all of that, it's very important that, the culture and the history be presented as accurate as possibly can.
Correct.
So I'm very big on, the culture being, put into the right context. And personally, I feel that a lot of people who did like history work, they didn't do a lot of good work.
Right. But see, and this is one of the things that we look at, and it's a way of paraphrasing it, but what we look at is the gospels of hip hop, right? Because not everybody experienced what other people experience, right? So when you get a story from Africa Bambaataa, you get his version. When you get a story from Kool Herc, you get his version. When you get a story from Grandmaster Flash, you get his version. But when we start looking at the collective of information there, and this is sort of what we want to do with our minds and with our knowledge and information, and this sort of brings me to the next segment where we're talking about the eras of hip hop. And that's sort of where I want to start breaking it down into segments, and sort of part of the reason why I invited you, because especially in the early years, we know certain things about some groups from the early years, the ones that were most proficient. Like, for example, in the B-Boy era, we know about TBB, and we know about the Zulu Kings, and we know about Rocksteady Crew and New York City Breakers. But that's about all we know about that era. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted, especially, and just to show the image briefly, the eras of hip hop. Right. So this is a brief outline. We also have it in lesson format, but this is a way that we basically broke it down into 5-year segments because we started to notice there was big differences, every year between who did what when. So for example, from the pioneer era, and this is of course when it started to become proficient on the culture as a whole, who were some of the important B-boy crews or groups or individuals of 74 to 79, for example, in your understanding?
I would there is what you call the go off in the burning era, and those are guys from late 72 to about 75, and then because all of these things they overlap, and then after that you have guys who go into a style of the dance that is more like it's not like footwork, it's more shuffles, and their style was more like shuffles. So then you're starting to go into the crews, the early crews, you know, from Harlem and in the Bronx, you know, like Rock City crew, who was a crew from Harlem, where Frosty Freeze originally originated from. Who Sundance, you know, came from. Sundance, you know, was, you know, a member of that, and he was also running with the Zulu Kings. So, and then even before Zulu Kings, you have Zulu Masters.
Right.
Like before there was Zulu Kings, there were Zulu Masters, and those were like the first generation of like Charlie Rock and all those dudes, and then later it became Zulu Kings and the first generation of Zulu Kings, and then you have guys like a little like maybe 2 years after that, you have guys like Pow Wow who came onto the scene. Now Pow Wow introduced more of like the shuffle style. So now we're still talking like before like 75 at the latest.
Right.
So then after 75 and all that, you know, stuff, you have TBB. A lot of people believe that Zulu King started in 73. That's not true. It started in 75 according to Charlie Rock and how he broke that down. So TBB and Zulu Kings are pretty much like anywhere between 3 to 6 years. 3 to 6 months apart from each other, but it's relatively in 1975. So in 1975, you're starting to see shuffles with guys like Batch, who invented the 3-step. So that 3-step is where, you know, you start to see more movement of the stuff that you will later see on. And then, you know, guys like Spy, who around like 76 to 77 started adding more steps. You have the 4, you have the 6, which it was created by the CC crew, and you know that's the 6 is what most people see, you know, what you see in breaking now. So and then after that you have 77, but to interject with that also, what's the brother's name? Brother by the name of the original Clark Kent. Now the original Clark Kent, who was a Herculord, and he started out as a b-boy dancing with Kool Herc and those guys. But later on, you know, he became a DJ. But he was the guy who introduced the idea of taking 2 of the same record and back cueing them. It wasn't Kool Herc.
I've heard that.
It's not Kool Herc.
Right.
So
Herc was doing it with different records. He was putting different records back to back.
He would take Apache and Bongo
too.
Rock.
Right.
He'll take Apache and Bongo Rock and, you know, and blend them. Blending and back cueing, you know, doubles are 2 different things. Now, the significance of doubles is when the doubles came out about 77, because 77 is a pivotal year in the development in all aspects of hip hop culture. In 77, when, you know, the doubles, you know, came into play because of the idea of a b-boy who turned into a DJ. That changed the whole aspect of the way, you know, DJs practice and the way b-boys dance, because then the isolation of certain parts were heightened. So the dance started being more cohesive. You had more things. It was taking shape. Whereas from 75 back, things were all over the place. It wasn't as organized.
Gotcha.
So from 74 to 75, it started to be more organized. And that was, you know, from the influence of the invention of taking two of the records, you know, and all that stuff. And then, you know, as you know, 77, you know, the height of DJing, you know, came and all that stuff. So everybody, I say this all the time, you know, people say the foundation of hip hop culture are the DJs, but b-boying culture is the foundation of DJs.
Got you.
Because
I sort of alluded to that in the beginning, right? The first start.
Because the using 2 of the same record, that's when b-boying really started to take shape. It got more aggressive. It got more dynamic with the footwork and everything. And now you have DJs who could practice with 2 of the same record. And then MC started rhyming over what? Doubles. So everybody benefit from that, from the mentality of a b-boy's perspective. These are a lot of things that are not being told, you know, in the culture. And that's just 77. You know, there's other narratives or whatnot, you know, of what happened with, you know, the blackout and all that stuff, and then how DJs became, you know, more poignant. That made more jams. That means more people got into the dance. But I know I'm like, talking a lot about this, but I would
No,
say
this is
like
that era. This is what we're talking about. You right on point, brother. I feel you.
No, thank you. I find this very informative because I don't know much about these eras going backwards. I'm still new to this stuff.
well,
So,
And that's why we're
absolutely.
here.
And I would say from 77 back, and particularly 75 to 72, a lot of the things that you see that we do right now stem from the creation of like a b-boy culture, like to want to dress well, to wear sneakers a certain way, people's affinity for sneakers. A lot of that came from that, a lot of, the things that a lot of people were doing. So there's a lot of people who were saying, well, oh, it started in Brooklyn and all that stuff. It didn't start in Brooklyn because all the people who were doing it were dancing to more aggressive percussions, and it was less disco. Not that they weren't doing disco, but it was more Latin infused rock percussions. And then you had two aspects. You had what is considered the black version of the dance, and then the Puerto Rican version of the dance. And one group, the first generation of b-boys were mostly black. Not all, but a lot of them were. Their style was more like burning and going off. That was their version. Whereas like more of the Puerto Rican side is like rocking. So then, rocking style was more cohesive. It was more organized. But somewhere in between there, I have to also remember there was Robbie Rob from he was a baby Zulu. There was Zulu Kings and then there was baby Zulus. Like Beaver was the president of baby Zulus. And like Robbie Rob and all those guys are the ones that created like their version of what was going on, which was more elaborate. And Robbie Rob created the chair freeze. So the chair freeze gave birth to what became later on is the first two forms of the backspin. And then after that, the third version, which was a continuous backspin, which was made by legs, which later developed into the windmill.
Around when was this? Around what year was this you talking about?
I would say like 77. Well, Robbie Rob's invention is like 77. The other versions of the 2 and 3, the forms of backspins was by JoJo from CC Crew, and who later was credited as being a co-founder of Rocksteady before Rocksteady Crew. Now I say Rocksteady. When I mean Rocksteady, I mean Rocksteady in what year was that? I would say 1979. That whole 77, not true. 77. So when you see people say Rocksteady 77, that's inaccurate. That is totally inaccurate. It just cannot exist. There's so many narratives to that. But JoJo and I can't remember the other guy created the two first versions of the backspin, and then Legs made a continuous backspin. Now the difference between the backspin and the continuous backspin is it's a one shot. You go into the move and you spin for as much as you can, and then after that you freeze and you go out it. Now with Legs
Right.
he created the continuous backspin where you keep continuing to spin, you keep whipping. He did that. I would say Legs is the last version, which is like late 77, 78.
Okay.
But all of that would not be possible if it wasn't for Robbie Rob from Baby Zulus to create that move.
All right. And just for a moment, we got just joining us a brother, and I know it's Eridu Asher, who's also, somebody that I look at as sort of like a very knowledgeable, like I'm a hip hop educator. I teach the basics to introduction, but he's sort of like yourself, Pluto, a hip hop historian who has a lot of information on all different aspects of the culture and sampling and radio play and all that. So I always appreciate his presence. So thank you for making it. Right now, we're talking about the pioneer eras of hip hop, the original eras between 74 and 79. And Brother Pluto is just breaking down a lot of that unknown unfamiliar b-boy history between 74 and 79. What we're discussing there.
Right. Awesome. Awesome.
Now, also, you also have to take in consideration that the first guy to really MC was Coke LaRock.
Mm.
That's
and
right.
Coke, yes, Coke LaRock. He was the first one before guys who get credit like Cowboy and all that. And it was and it was something that was going on in the early '70s and all that. Like emceeing the way we know it as rapping, once again, really didn't jump off until like '77.
That's right.
A lot of the 77. A lot of those dudes were b-boys. Melly Mel and all them were b-boys before all of that.
True.
So
real quick, I can
Mel did-
allude to this. This document is sort of like an example of the lesson that we've been using to separate and teach the difference between the eras. Now, because we came up in a more MC-generated era, around the 90s and 2000s when this report was generated, we can look at a lot easier the eras of hip-hop through the eras of rap and how there was a difference between each era. Big difference between Grandmaster Caz and LL Cool J. Big difference between LL and Big Daddy Kane and KRS and Rakim. Big difference between them and Nas and Tupac. So this is the more famous side, and this is why we sort of just outlined it as the eras. So now we can take that discussion into the same eras of b-boys and graffitis and DJ. You feel me?
There's a lot. So around '77, you had a lot of groups. You had a lot of DJ crews being created because of what was going on. With the blackout and everything. So that later ushered in, what became popular, before. But to break down just the whole thing of Rocksteady crew. It was the founders of that was Jimmy D. Jimmy Lee was the president, and Jimmy D was the vice president, and those are the guys who started Rocksteady TBB, because the shirts, if you've ever seen the pictures of Jimmy Lee and D standing side by side, the back of those shirts say Rocksteady TBB, because they were like the Burnside chapter. They made that crew when Batch disbanded most of TBB, not all of it, but most of the crew. That was June 15th in 1978. I think it was June 15th, 1978.
Right.
When he did that. So if they're the founders,
and that was sort of around Rocksteady became independent around that point, you think?
Well, you have to understand, Rocksteady is still TBB. This is before the Manhattan dudes like Ken Swift and all those dudes.
Okay.
Ken Swift and those dudes, like, they didn't get down until '80. Legs did not, because Legs was in TBB for a short while and a Rockwell Association between 77 and 79. Because he started out in '77. He learned from his cousin Lenny Len, who was Rockwell Association. So Rocksteady TBB was started around like 78, 79, and they were short-lived because they were getting older. A lot of street stuff, a lot of those guys were getting, because they were into a lot of crazy stuff. Half these guys were, on some street stuff, but still b-boying, and then the other, guys like Jimmy D, he actually went to the Navy, and then they gave it to Legs. So Legs they gave it to Legs around 1980. So
that's right. 1980s, right? That's correct. 1980s, correct. It's 41 years ago.
Right. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So hip hop. I'm now 50 years old. And it's awesome to see where 41 years later, how it is now, how it's developed and transpired. Isn't that amazing? And we're living in a great time in history.
Yeah, it's you're going to see a lot of incredible things are like on the way and are going to be developed. So again, so Legs and those guys, made all of that stuff when they were in when they were on the Upper West Side.
Mm.
So the whole reason
Right.
for it being called 77 was more of a street thing that, you know, JoJo told Jimmy Lee, you know, to tell people. And that, you know, that just got messy. Legs kept, I should say, kept the name 77 because, you know, it looked better.
Mm. Okay.
But this is the problem with a lot of the people in our culture. A lot of the people in our culture are dating things, and none of them are right. You know, when Zulu came about, the date of Zulu is not right.
Mhm.
The date of Rocksteady Crew is not right. You know, there's a few other people. You know, I've gotten into debates on a lot of people about that. Because of the dates that they said were accurate and weren't accurate. But if you talk to guys like Charlie Rock and all that, who are very intelligent and very sharp,
Right.
they
Definitely.
are
Charlie
very
Rock
on
is
point.
Right. So
Charlie
here's
Rock's
the
a great
thing.
scholar.
Right. So I've gotten to build with him a few times. And a
He's
lot of
on
how we
point.
coordinated this information is because of things that he's validated. And you are not the first, nor the second, nor the third that has told us a lot of times when old school brothers date things, they're always around like 73, 74, 75, somewhere around there. There's always like a 2-year time period. And that's, you know, basically it comes down to just ego to say we did it first. We was doing it before them. But this is why we look at the gospels of hip hop, all the different expressions of what people are saying happen, and then we can cross-check them amongst each other. And they will tell you, nah, he wasn't doing it yet because that wasn't done until after the sampling came out, and the sampling came out around this year, and then that's when they started doing it. So he couldn't have been doing it then because it wasn't out yet. And this is how we cross-check.
You're getting a lot of critical thinking, a lot of critical research that's been going on for at least the past 5 years, and people are really, you know, starting, you know, to break a lot of this stuff down. I've said that, you know, even with b-boying, it doesn't get its proper acknowledgement in hip hop culture. I will go as far as to say, if it's not been for you know, b-boying and breaking, you would not have a Jay-Z. You would not have a KRS-One or a Rakim, because what made hip hop culture popular to the world from 1980 to 1983 was breaking. In those years, there weren't rap videos, there weren't rap movies. You know, the greatest movies, Star Wars, Wild Style, Beat Street, Breaking, all that stuff. You know, that's what they were selling, because that's the thing they didn't catch on to the whole rap thing. You know, it was kind of second banana to all of that stuff, or whatever, whatnot. And then, you know, after a while, they start seeing, well, you know what, this, you know, we can make money off it. So then that's how that took off. But, you know, back in the days when we were a kid, you know, rap was just amongst us. It wasn't around the world. You know, you didn't go to, you know, they weren't playing it on radio stations in Virginia or playing it in Canada or playing it in South America or whatever, whatnot. But you saw breaking everywhere. You know, Fred Flintstone was breaking. You know, like the commercials, like it was just ridiculous. And this is the thing that's going on now. I'm telling people, if you don't pay attention and like get involved, you will see what was happening in the 80s happen now. So it's very important, you know, for all of this information to like be, you know, calculated, be done, put together as accurate as possible, because you got the museum that's coming. And then, you know, there's talks of potentially another museum in Harlem coming, and then they want to expand that. So these museums, they're saying like, we want these, you know, if we get these museums going on right now, the next step is going to, okay, we want to do one out in the West Coast, and then we want to do one over in Europe, and then we want to do one in Asia. But the thing is like, all this information is going to have to be all the same stuff.
You got to get the facts straight. No more inconsistencies.
You know, so it's very important.
So I've actually been contacted or been in contact with, you know, there's two different at least museums. There's the one in the Bronx they're focused on. There's also one in DC, and then also in the International Hip Hop Museum. That's sort of part of the reason why, you know, they came to us, because they know we've been dealing with people all over the world. And, you know, like the brother, rather the sister Coach Mix and the brother Ray Domingo from the Philippines, who are on the call who are sort of instrumental in getting the Philippines hip hop history out there, you know, and then we're dealing with brothers in Germany and Brazil. So we want to get this international story.
And that all
together.
adds on to the
But
lexicon.
us coming from the foundation, this is why for me, it's not about my version of hip hop history. It's about this is the collective information of hip hop history. This is how it's fact checked and chronologized and put together in factual information. And there's always going to be discrepancies because somebody didn't see what was happening in Bronxdale and somebody didn't see what was happening in Queens, but we can get it to around the right area, time period, order of things happening. And that teaches us how we evolved and where we came from and how to take it further.
I tell people, because there's a lot of people who did, the history before me, and there was a few people trying to negate, what I said and say that my stuff wasn't accurate. So I said something that I've never seen, because I don't consider myself a historian. But I've said that, you know what, I'll take the Pepsi challenge to anybody on the planet Earth, live, on any social media, whatever you want. You can bring as many people as you need. I will stand there by myself and defend all my claims and all my research.
Gotcha.
Not one historian in hip hop has ever made that claim. And I stand by that. I'll take anybody's challenge. And I took that challenge to the people that came before me.
Right.
So that's how confident I am with my work. I don't think that it's 100% or whatnot, but that's also based off of, some of the stuff that, what people say. But there are things that, if you do the research and you read enough on that stuff, you will see that who's accurate. When you see all the stuff based on when it's dated, when it was said, and who interviewed or whatnot, you'll see a lot of that. The problem with us and our culture is we are lazy. We do not do the work.
Right. But with that being said, I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at the chosenzulu.com at the website, but this is why we're trying to get pieces of this information and put it together in a central location that introduces them to it. So that way it piques their interest and they begin to start looking for more information. One place where, I've heard, throughout the years, because I was digging and looking for information, hip hop history, interviewing the pioneers whenever I can catch them, I heard here and there about Disco King Mario, but it was through me digging for that information that I heard how he put so-and-so on and he put so-and-so on. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have been able to get Audubon or 123. And these are integral moments in hip hop history that I feel he should be accredited for.
Absolutely.
So in my researching and looking for it, I came across Michael Wayne TV, and then Michael Wayne TV does interviews with all the original Black Spades on how the culture was first formed in Bronxdale, in Section 1, in Section 6. They give you all the details. So for those that don't know, Michael Wayne TV on YouTube is an excellent.
He's probably the best person on that topic. He's the best person on that topic.
So once I started finding his information, started sharing it and using it to validate what we heard from people who know Disco King Mario personally, and now we can use those videos. I came across a documentary about Disco King Mario, which was basically accidental. I talked with the director and the producer and everything. And long story short, is the documentary started trying to interview Kool Herc, but Kool Herc didn't want to interview him. But he was already interviewing everybody else, and Disco King Mario's name kept coming up. So he started asking about Disco King Mario. It ended up being a 30-minute docudrama about Disco King Mario and how he put on Herc and Band and introduced Jazzy to Band and created the first events in 21 Days of Summer before August 11th. And he sort of created that atmosphere along with the Black Spades that created the safety for that culture to exist. True or no?
Yes, and they not only that, you're absolutely correct. And not only that, they prove, that what has been said, in the early 90s of the narrative of hip hop culture starting in the islands, from the block party aspects and all that stuff. And that's not accurate at all, because there were people doing block parties over in the in Brooklyn and Queens before in the Bronx. So you would, so if we don't connect them, technically, if we don't connect them, to the beginning of the culture, then why would we connect some, people from the other islands? And I'm not taking anything away from them. The only really connection of that is that Kool Herc comes from the islands.
Also, peace, man. What's up, Pluto? What's up, bro?
How you doing, brother? Peace and blessings.
Peace, brother.
Yeah, this Phatz, man. Peace, man. You my hero, brother. You my b-boy hero, sir.
Thank you. I'm trying, man.
Hey, no doubt. But also, I also wanted to add on with the only and another connection too I found is King Charles out of Queens, who bought the speaker wall concept from Jamaica, and he was a student of King Tubby, so he brought that. So it's more equipment than personality.
When was that?
Influence.
When was
That's
that?
true.
Brother?
Yep.
From her. And in my
Around when
book, I
was that?
also wrote how, yeah, we do need to include Grandmaster Flowers, Pete DJ Jones, the people like that was doing the things in Queens. It's that founding forefathers. And so, but things need to be put in a proper perspective as well,
Yes,
as far as the
and
culture,
that's what it is. That's the
influences
key word.
versus the culture.
That the
Yes.
proper perspective, because there are people like they say, well, in breaking, they say, well, I created this move and all that stuff, and I'm like, well, we did the research, and obviously, the Nicholas brothers might have done this move, or this person might have done this move, or some of the other dancers might have done this move. So what we say is, he introduced this to the culture. That's the technical term. We have, and that's how we have to do things. Instead of people getting credit for things they didn't do because they saw somebody else doing it, we say it was introduced by this. Just like we could say, well, like the statement that you're making. Well, the notion of the big speakers was introduced by this, or whatnot, or Grandmaster Flowers introduces, because Grandmaster Flowers has a connection to hip hop through Grandmaster Flash, because Grandmaster Flash and Melly and them, they saw him. They went to those events, when he first was in, either Brooklyn or Queens. But then later, Flowers started to come to the Bronx, and Flowers battled. There's a magazine, man, and I got it. I think I have it in storage. I got to find it. In Wax Poetic, and they did a whole history of block party culture. And I remember talking to Johnny Juice about that, because he was interviewed and he was breaking down some background scenes of that. But like, oh man, I wish I had it on me now. It's a Wax Poetic. You might be able to still find it.
Okay.
Maybe next meeting.
I remember.
Then maybe the next meeting you can have it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find it.
I remember that Wax Poetics too, but I also checked out Mr. Wiggles, right? Mr. Wiggles got a podcast. He brought a very interesting point, how a lot of people from New York will be at the block party. When you talk to them, they'll claim that they are elder, but they were just at the block party. They might have been at a Cool Herc block party, but when they talk to you, it's like they are pioneer. And I've been noticing a lot of that be going on too.
These dudes come out. I got receipts for all of them.
Well, see,
that's why you need to know your history.
I think we lost the brother Eridu, but he was on the call. He's one of the brothers that was actually one of the first brothers to start a fact checking KRS-One for getting some of his information, and that's why I had him on the call. But it looks like we lost him. But this is why we have these collaboratives and these conversations, because we need to get it correct. I can easily say we started in 1982. I was only, a toddler and shit, but I could easily say that, you know what I mean? But it can be fact checked, you know what I mean? So it's one of these things where this is why we want to have the conversation. So that way, even when I have brothers like you and brother Phatz, who for brothers don't know, is another author of the book. What is it called again? Offstage?
Offstage, yes, sir.
All right, he's actually written a very, very detailed, one of the best books that I've read on the pre-culture of hip hop and everything that sort of set the foundation for what created the atmosphere
you the man
of hip-hop,
for that, man.
describing the times and the atmosphere and the circumstances and the situations and the names. So definitely check that out. I definitely want to plug that. If anything, put it in the chat room so people can get that.
Dope,
it's only like $10. It's only like $10. It's very simply read. It's not no long, detailed words. It's the story of the culture.
That's the narrative
that
created with everything that we're talking about now.
Correct.
Well, see, here's the thing. Me and Chosen was talking about this before. We are the generation to bring truth to power to the babies. We the ones about to put the books together, put the dictionaries together, the new terms and all the real history, outline it, get the right dates, get the right people, the right time, and actually build texts and books and curriculums and syllabuses so we can really teach the history. That's our long-term goal. And
that's so true.
And another thing, if we hold these people who we talk to accountable and they see that we're not playing, we're gonna make them be more honest. So I'd rather them talk less and be truthful than talk a lot and being lied.
Exactly.
the
I
issue
I
we
totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
And also, brother Phatz, just to mention to you, also another brother I was trying to get on the call, another author, wrote the book Peace in Time of War, and this is from brother Sir Malik One, who was instrumental in getting the Hip Hop Declaration passed at the United Nations, and instrumental in help building the Temple of Hip Hop, the whole philosophy. He was one of the guys that was building it with KRS-One, and he wrote this book, Peace in Time of War, very socio-political awareness type of book as a hip hop citizen of this nation, of this culture. I'm only halfway through it because I keep reading the chapter over and over again because I'm like, damn, there's so much information. Because like he's putting together in socio-political terms what we've been teaching and inferring to by learning the virtues and the history and the culture and the pride. He's putting it together as a socio-political understanding of a hip-hop citizen, of the people. It's a great book. It's like $18 on Amazon. It's called Peace in the Time of War. It's worth it. You know what I mean? So definitely check that out. I would love your feedback
Forget
on
that, no doubt.
And we definitely
Appreciate
going
I'll
to be
definitely
building
have to
it
check
too.
that out too.
You know, when it's all said and done, the new books of this culture are going to be the most poignant, most thoroughly, most enlightening collection right now, based off of us. I tell a few of my boys, I was like, you know, the OGs told us all this stuff to go out and do the research and put in the work and all that stuff. But I'm finding out now, everything they said that they were and how they went about it wasn't them. It was us. We are everything that they said that they were.
That's what PRiZM said that a while ago in an early union meeting. He said the same thing a while ago, but
Brother, they
I
told
know that.
me
I
that
know that. I
personally.
know
They
exactly what's going
they
on.
said
Yo.
we
I'm
wrote
with
this
you.
information down and put it together as a concept of what we wanted it to be. But y'all are the real ones because y'all really lived it. Y'all really doing it. And that was from one of the most thuggish OG brothers on the street back then. For him to say that to us, I knew we were the new era. We were the ones that were really the guardians that were bringing us into the schools, into the streets, into the youth programs, teaching the kids how to use the studio and the recording equipment, teaching them who to talk to about the real facts and the information, teaching them who to stay away from and not to get caught up with.
Yeah.
So it falls on us. You know what I mean? It falls on us.
All I know as a kid, I thought this is the way it was supposed to be. And then you find out, you know, I mean, you find out certain things are not what they're supposed to be, but you know, you don't get discouraged. You just be, you know, you just be the true and living of who you are or what you built yourself up to, and never negate that and push on, because then there's people coming behind you that you got to bring up, you know, and bring them up to speed with all this stuff.
Hey, can everybody hear me? This is Malik. I wanted to chime in for a second.
Oh, there he is. That's the brother I was just speaking about. Peace, brother.
Peace, brother.
Man, thank each and every one of you. Thank each and every
low
one of
key.
you.
He ain't put his name. He came in his iPhone and just listened to everything. I like that. That's slick.
So,
Go ahead, brother.
you know, you just made my man just made an excellent point about, you know, not just being able to bring together the collections of all of these literary works, but being able to hold those people in our community accountable. And the reason I wanted to chime in is because it just made me reflect when the teacher, KRS, now we go back to the 80s. And so during the 90s, obviously right after Pac and Big got killed, we really got a lot of fire under our efforts to start doing a lot of these seminars, doing a lot of these forums and community discussions, et cetera, et cetera. And just being able to strike up these conversations it was phenomenal for about 5 minutes. Because after about 5 minutes, it all would just descend into like just circular discussions about who did what first, when, and the whole point of why we were bringing ourselves together to try to get a grip on this information started to be lost in all of the noise. And so, again, approaching these people, I just encourage a very strategic diplomacy. Because one of the things that we have to remember is a lot of this, and I know a lot of y'all can identify, but a lot of the things were oral tradition. right? It was an oral tradition. And then
Yeah.
when you start translating that oral tradition into literary, there's always going to be some gaps. There's always going to be some inconsistency. And I just think that in our experience, especially, what ended up working just so much better for us. And I think I heard Priz mention this earlier about my man being able to come back to tell Chris, tell the teacher, you know, yo, man, some of your information is, and largely because when we were bringing together as many people as possible, we started seeing it becoming more clique-ish. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things we got to guard against and make certain that this information is just more accessible, that we are more accessible. Because with our accessibility, that then helps to push exactly what you guys were saying earlier about being the people in position to bring this information, to teach this information. I think we're already there. I think we're there right now. We're there right now. It is a matter of us just starting on these kind of calls to be able to develop some kind of networking. We do these events and we put our lesson plans together and we pass them along and we build each other's lessons plans. You see what I'm saying? Because the market is just screaming for it. The demand is so high for everything that we're talking about out here in the world, just in general society, beyond hip hop. Beyond hip hop. You know?
Definitely.
Yep.
We should start a guild or something, like a guild, like a writers guild or a literary guild, something that we do, or maybe something in the future we can that way. Because at the end of the day, the book needs to be the same. We're working on the one book all together. And that's the way I'm looking at it.
But here it is. You got to remember, even the Bible was a collection of 66 books. But these are the things that have to balance each other out. And this is why right now we got two at least. You know, and I don't know, Pluto, if you've written anything yet, but if you didn't, you should, because
there's talks. We're working on a documentary.
There's very valuable historical, and it's not just like for facts of stating history, but it's documenting our culture, our history, our prestige. Like I said, these are some of the things that when we learned it, it made us feel walk taller and prouder and conduct ourselves a little more professionally when we went out and we represented this culture. We need to give this as an option to the youth. And it needs to be through people like us. Right now, we have a real simple example is mumble rap, right? Mumble rap is what happens when you send a bunch of first graders to the classroom and no teacher is there. And they say, we were supposed to learn about rap today. So rap goes something like this, a him and 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 a, and then
let the special ed class do a talent show.
Right? Because they're teaching each other because we didn't show up for class. We didn't show up to teach them. I mean, right now, this atmosphere, this is a demonstration. This is how we create the classroom and we bring them to it because they want to know. So instead of just learning about Little Yachty or Little Wayne, they can learn about Cool Mo D and Melly Mel and Cool G Rap and all the ones that led up to their favorite artists. So they can be influenced by all those different styles, not just the one they heard on the radio for the past 90 days. And like I said, rap is that forefront. So we created that first template for the eras on that. But the brother Eridu is another brother I want to hear, not only because he knows about the hip hop culture, but he knows about the radio aspects of hip hop culture and how they approached it from that perspective throughout history. So this is the type of information when we get all your perspectives together, we have a real kaleidoscopic widescreen view of our culture and like a panoramic screen. We know what happened politically. We know what happened according to the history. We know each element, as some of you know, each element is like a culture of its own. Like the b-boy culture is very different than the DJ culture. It's very different than the beatbox culture. It's very different than the MC culture. You know what I mean? But they all are part of the same thing. Like b-boys deal with their own issues at the battles and getting paid and competition and who judges what right. And graffiti deals with their own thing, is whether or not they're getting arrested or having a place that you put their murals up safely and make sure it doesn't get toyed or wiped down. And all these different things are all different perspectives, but that when we get together and start putting it together, we can provide this scholastic type of information to the next generation where they feel the sense of pride and inheritance in this knowledge and this culture. And this call today was a demonstration of how we can get minds like ours together and start putting together these narratives and the structure. Because like I said, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, we don't need 100 people to put an online hip hop academy together. We can start
can I
a handful of like us and start doing it now. Go ahead, brother, please.
This is something that, is crazy. This was about three years ago. B-boy, this is what's been tallied up. They did the numbers. 3 or 4 years ago, B-boying generated $3 billion.
By itself.
And none of and 95% of the B-boys are not millionaires.
Sounds familiar.
And this is what I'm telling people, like, you're a product. You know, it's not enough to just do your art. You need to find ways to navigate that into a business, create a business for yourself.
Marketing and promotion and all of that.
Yes, we have social media. You don't have to pay for websites. There's like, people are getting discovered. Like, you know, we could do the way the rappers do it, the way they get discovered on social media and all that stuff. You can build things. You can build things with that stuff. That's what we're working on right now. We've got, you know, there's a few things in place that, you know, we're going to build, you know, and create businesses. But everything that goes with the business will also be the information and the history of the culture. So you are getting it along with the product that we want to, you know, send out to the world.
Absolutely. We do the same thing. One of the main lessons that we teach in the Chosen for years is you are your own business. Think of yourself as whatever your name is incorporated. What are the services or products or ideas or passion or energy that you bring to any work environment? And that's to flip the narrative, even when you're looking for a job, to the point that you're not actually looking for a job. You're offering your services to different companies and deciding which one you want to offer your services to. It flips your whole perspective when you realize you are your own business. You are your own brand. Who is Emmanuel Roman Incorporated? When I go out there, this is what they think when they hear my name. He's professional. He's efficient. He's detailed. He's oriented. He's success oriented. He's inspirational. He motivates others. That's the brand that I built, that I brought to all this on my own name, but to teach us to pass down what we don't learn in school. How to.
Why are we not making money? Why are we not making money off of what we created? Because when we make the money and we have control of that, and, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with working with a corporation and saying, okay, we have an agreement, but I'm not with, you know, being in a situation where they sign my check.
Right.
Excuse me.
But this is why we're trying to teach. We have the benefit now of technology to start creating our own brand and charging our own monthly subscriptions to start gaining access to this. Go ahead, brother. Who's that? Wayne Benson.
Yeah, hold up. This is Aniki Boogie's brother. I'm also.
Peace, fam. How you doing? Peace Chosen. One love.
Yes.
Peace Chosen.
I'm trying to let y'all know that y'all have a little situation going on because some of the members are trying to log into the Zoom. But I just figured out how y'all log into your Zoom. So because we were on Messenger. I was with Trey and them. And we was all on Messenger.
Hold chat, family. Hold chat.
Okay, peace. It looks like you're coming in little by little.
I'm here. I got it. I got the link. I got it.
Yeah, there was a little difficulty for some other people logging in too. I'm sorry about that. I've been on a Zoom call, so I haven't seen anything about it.
Yeah, I just started with Zoom. I didn't know. I didn't even have it on here.
Okay. But peace, yeah, we're just having a discussion about hip hop, the culture, the history. You know, right now, you know, we were discussing the eras of hip hop and how putting this information together. We have a couple of authors on the book. Books on the call. We have a b-boy hip hop historian who knows more information than I do. You know what I mean? So I defer to him as somebody when I go to for b-boy history. Brother Pluto7, brother Malik, who's the author of Peace in Time of War. It's definitely a great book. It's on Amazon. You should definitely check it out. It's like the outline for our hip hop citizenry and hip hop nation. I also have, letting back in the room, brother Eric Morgado, who's another hip hop historian, is very familiar with hip hop history on air radio, airplay, the sampling, the mixing. We also have brother Jason Kirkman, aka brother Phatz, who's the author of Off Stage. It's a great book on the hip hop pre-culture, everything that created the atmosphere that turned into the hip hop culture. And we're putting our minds together to try to get this information organized so we can start presenting it. This is meant to be an introduction not only to you, to each other, and to you, to what we're sharing and teaching at Chosen, but for us to organize a series like this. Like, I want to do a weekly or bi-monthly series where this week we give a general introduction. Next week we go deep with brother Pluto into b-boy history through each of the eras. And we discuss as much as you know, and we'll have other brothers that can fact check or question or have their own input on the call as well, so we can start putting together this information. Then the week after, we'll have brother Phatz on, going through the P culture and his history, and sort of create this as an ongoing series where, like I said, we can create our own online hip hop academy, passing down the information the way that we know has been validated and proved, and not only just to know it, but how to conduct ourselves better and how to become your own business, your own brand. And one of the things that we teach is that this information is not just good to know this is what they did, but to know that this is what they did and that you can apply the same techniques. And this is what we teach through chosen coaching, knowledge of self. The same things that they did to become great MCs is the same thing you can do to become your own catering company or your own barbershop or whatever it is that you're really compelled to do. So the same virtues, the same way we learn business and marketing and advertising, promoting and crafting our skills, you can apply it to whatever your passion is. And because of today's technology, you have the ability to do something like this where you can share, I love puppies or I love lizards. Lizards are great. And you can talk about whatever it is, there's a market for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to feel comfortable enough with your passion and your interest to say, if I started a group for lizards or for foodies or for restaurants, for whatever it is, because you're passionate about it, that's your thing. Like Bruce Lee's thing was martial arts. Michael Jackson's thing was dancing and music. Michael Jordan's thing was basketball. But each one of them was teaching us an example how to tap into whatever your thing is. It could be painting, it could be drawing, it could be singing, it could be Mother of the Year to 3 wonderful kids. Whatever your passion is, you feel me?
I got a
These are
question
the things
for
that
you.
we ultimately lead to. Go ahead, brother.
That's right.
Is there any way that I can volunteer, because I do cybersecurity and IT tech and web design?
Okay. Well, this is also the platform, and just what I was sort of alluding to, where we want not only to encourage you to develop your skills and your passions, but we want to create a platform where we can all promote our services and skills and abilities. Sort of how we designed Chosen Zulu as a way that we can start highlighting the skills and the talents of our members as products and services that we can start offering, whether through Zoom calls or a product they provide or a one-on-one service or whatever it is. So I definitely want to be able to get in touch with each of you and find out what your skills, what your professions, what your passions are, and find a way that we can help you start marketing that. This is all just an introduction to how we use the hip hop knowledge to introduce people to knowledge of self to become the best version of themselves. So it's not just about becoming knowledgeable on hip hop, though we are looking to recruit other educators and other brothers and sisters that we can start booking out there to start teaching and hosting these events and getting paid for sharing your knowledge, as well as learning how to develop your own fees and your own subscription fees so you can start putting yourself and your knowledge out there. So I definitely want to get into those conversations on who does what and where.
Oh.
Go ahead, sis.
Oh, can I say something? Sorry.
Please.
No, I think with teaching hip hop and for younger generations, it really does help to knock down the barriers and the stereotypes that are associated with the negativity, so we can show people there is a positive side. And I know that's what a lot of you guys have been doing. So I think it's great, but I think we need to keep it up,
Thank you. Definitely appreciate that.
One of the things I want, hey, how are you guys? Thank you very much, PRiZM and everyone else who's here. Thank you for allowing me to be here. One of the things I have to say about hip hop culture itself is for 41 years, it was developing even back then. We are now 50 years old, 50 plus years. We now have a little bit of accumulation over this time span to actually be able to talk about b-boy and talk about the history of electronic music and how it played into the hip hop culture. And before that, sampling did not exist till 1979 as a term, but it did exist in the 1950s. And this is what I have to say, even in hip hop itself, we have people like the Jubilaries in the 1940s, they're 48 to be exact. This is all have been accumulated, and this is all accumulated project. And so all of us does have a niche. We all have our area of expertise and some knowledge that's extra from what you see in the books. And that's where we come in. Acer, thank you very much. And everyone that's in here, thank you for allowing this to develop continually, because we're the ones that are helping this continue, because there's a generation that has no idea of where.
Exactly.
I agree. And that's why I have brothers like you on this call, because I want to get our great informed collective minds together and start putting together this information in a way that is not like, you know, like I told my brothers all the time, we didn't gain this knowledge and information just so we can keep sharing it amongst each other. That's not why God blessed us with this knowledge and information. He gave us this knowledge and information so we can share it with as many as possible. And and I'm not going to go without saying, as terrible as COVID was, as terrible as 2020 was, it sort of created the need for this atmosphere now where we can create this format, this venue, and reach even more people than we were reaching before. Because now they can't get it in schools. Now they can't get it at the community center. Now they can't get it where we were able to offer it before. But now, because of technology, we can start offering it right here through a program, you know, and one of the things we're doing, we're not trying to do it just to make money. We're trying to do it so we can compensate our brothers and sisters for their talents and skills, especially in these times where we can't get jobs and develop other things, but also as an example of how you can do it too, of how you can start to create your platform to start doing it. My brother Asa told me a story of a 12-year-old kid who created a financial advice subscription program for $12 a month and got like 6,000 people to sign up for it. He's making like $18,000 a month. And you know what I mean? And it's that simple in some cases, you know what I mean? You know, so things like that, these are the things that they're teaching each other and we're not teaching ourselves. So I went and had to go learn it from them, the people that were teaching it to each other, and bring it back in a format that we can do it. Now, because not everybody is knowledge of self oriented, it's been hard for me to reach people just knowledge of self. This is how to make yourself the best version of you. This is how to improve your life. This is how to improve your relationships. I can reach a certain demographic with that, but that demographic is already looking for it. I'm trying to reach a demographic that needs it. Our hip hop culture, our youth, our kids, they need this information. We don't need to wait until they're in their mid 30s and 40s to start sharing this type of information with them. We need to find a way to start getting this information to them now. And the way that we found we were successful with it was by teaching them about hip hop knowledge and knowledge of self. So all our meetings, we have not only discussion about the hip hop part of it, but we also talk about today, we're going to talk about how to build your physical cipher and make that stronger. Today, we're going to talk about how to strengthen your emotional balance and how to conduct yourself and express yourself without rubbing people the wrong way, without going over the line, how to effectively communicate with people. Emotional intelligence is a topic that we teach about. It's how to not only effectively express yourself, but how to effectively understand other people's expressions. These are things that we need because one of the things that sabotages our own people,
ego,
ghetto mentality, right? And the ghetto mentality comes ultimately from the ego. And because we're not taught the difference between spirit and ego, we think everything that happens in our mind is us, but it's not. It's a battle between the lower self and the higher self. And we need to be able to teach our people how to identify the lower self, that anger, that rage, that boredom, that depression, that frustration, all those negative emotions
brother,
from the lower self.
Brother, question. How do you teach ignorance, though?
Right, but see, we can't teach ignorance. We can pass on knowledge and influence. And through that, we're not going to reach everybody, but we can reach those who are ready and willing. You know, if I'm not ready to learn no knowledge of self and quit doing drugs or whatever I'm going to do, it don't matter what you got to say, I ain't going to hear it. But if I'm ready to make a difference in my life and I come across this group that I thought was about hip hop, so they actually start talking about knowledge of self and things that'll make my relationship with my wife better or my professional experience at work better, I might have to pay attention to that because I need more money and I want to be happy with my wife. And this is how we use that to introduce it. You know what I mean? All we could do is my job to share the information, not to convince you. You know what I mean? By sharing the information, I've done what my spirit compelled me to do. When you're ready and willing, you're going to be like, I need more of that inspiration in my life. I need more of that knowledge in my life. I need more of a reason to say something that I can pass on to my nephews and nieces and help them save their lives instead of watching them get killed. That's what we're trying to inspire.
Yeah, because that's my downfall. I try to because I'm awoke, right? So it bothers me to know that I have a brother or a sister who's not awoken. So when I do try to give them the knowledge that I know, you know, it's like if they shun it away or they act like, you know, they ignorant to the factor, it kind of messes with me and it pisses me off because I'm like, you should know, you know, it's like,
right.
I just feel like all Black people should be strong-willed to know, to be feeding or striving to learn more of knowledge of self.
Truth. And this is why one of the things that we teach and we learn is that we have to bring it according to their levels of understanding. right?
Hey,
So we can't go to everybody speaking college level stuff. We have to bring it down to the level they can understand it. And we just chose to use hip hop as that avenue to reach these people that we feel desperately needed. Go ahead,
Well,
brother.
it's common
me,
ground too. So like
hey,
common ground.
can I chime in? Can I say
Please,
something?
please.
Hey, this is Malik again. May I ask the name? Who was the sister that just was making that point?
Nubia.
Nubia. Listen, y'all, she is actually making a very, very critical point. And I know that the instinct is for us to respond, like you're saying, Priz, about meeting people where they are. But this is something I just say because I deal with it on an everyday, where I work in the medical field and I deal with people who have HIV, who have hepatitis, who have other self-inflicting comorbidities and disease and such. They wrapped up in their lives, but yet they're not willing to commit to a better path even for themselves. But what I'm getting at is, what you're talking about, Nubia, is so important for me to have been able to do it as long as I have, because it can be crushing. It can be discouraging. It can be so frustrating, especially when some of these people are the ones that are closest to us. And to me, it's why this group and why this discussion has such greater value, much deeper than just the words that we're talking about. And it's important that we get organized right now. We have got to get organized, because these have to become issues that we discuss openly so that we can better prepare ourselves when we are out in our day-to-day lives dealing with it. Because it's critical. We lose so many people who just get burned, or their bridges get burned, or bad business was done. You know, when I was running around with Chris and everybody, one of the most important things that I learned about myself was the practice of good business is good business. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. All of this other bullshit is why it is in shambles. It is in utter shambles. And not that people didn't try to prevent that from happening. I think that it just can't happen when you're relying on people who are beholden to the very same recording industry, right? They're beholden to this industry, but yet we're expecting them to be able to issue some degree of change. It'll happen more quickly if we, the people, the consumers, the average hip hop citizens, as I call us, the people who live in this culture and who have more greater value by we using it, teaching it to our children, and at the grocery store and at the gas station, you know, just by our demeanor. But again, her point is really important. And I just, you know, I don't want us to overlook these things, because it's definitely something we need to make as a topic of our conversation, probably at the beginning and at the end of every discussion, making certain that we on here are empowered. We got to be empowered. If we ain't empowered, we're not going to be able to meet the challenges when people approach us or we come across them and we don't have the proper medicine, if you will, or the proper strategy to pass on to them in their situation. And it is difficult. I got love for you, girl. I got love for you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, because remember, these are principalities and forces of darkness. Forces and principalities of darkness that we're dealing with. So stay strong in what you're doing and keep it moving.
I sure will, brother. Thank you.
True. And that's the thing. We can't reach everybody, right? But there's so many different things, like, you know, religion, Christianity, Islam is out there trying to reach a certain demographic, you know, New Age thinking is trying to reach a certain demographic, but I feel like there's not really many people reaching our demographic. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these motivational speakers and educational teachers are speaking to the upper middle class, and that's not us, but our people need it more than they do. You know, so like I said, brothers like you're hearing on the calls, we've done the research, we've done the homework and the calls of studying everything they did to be successful, to put it together in a way where we can pass it on to our people so we can be successful. We can become independently wealthy. We can become free. And we're only going to reach a certain demographic, just like everything else. Even though everybody needs this, we're only going to be able to reach a certain, like they say, many are called, but few are chosen. You know what I mean? So 1 out of every 1,000 might be a person that's ready for it. But it's by having the combination of minds like these and information like these that we can put together a panel of collective information on truth and history and culture and virtues and policies that we can pass on. For me, this is just the beginning, because all of us in here, save a few, we're all old heads now. But it's getting together with us and getting this information right that we can start to reach the younger heads, like some of the people that are on this call. They want to be the next generation leaders. They're looking at us as, how can we do this? How can we pass this on in our culture, in our community, in our country? And this is the conversation that I've been dying to have. 2020 was a hard year. I don't want to discount that everybody's been through something terrible, and we all know somebody that something terrible happened to or experienced it ourselves in one way or another. And it's this sort of thing. I wanted to start this off on the year where we can get together with a moment of upliftment, with a moment of realizing you're not the only one, sister. And Pluto, you're not the only one. And Eridu, you're not the only one. And Malik, you're not the only one. You know what I mean? There's others out here trying to do it. But here's the thing. As the industry that we've talked about, each one of us trying to come at it independently is like a little fly trying to come at a bull. It don't mean shit. But if we get together like a swarm, we could tear that cow up. You know what I mean? And we coming with truth and fact and knowledge and history, and we come the way we did, the way we marched in the 90s. For those that know, the Chosen Zulu, when we marched from Bronx to Manhattan to Harlem in formation, letting people know that we were organized, we was on point, and we was peaceful, promoting, handing out flyers along the way. You know what I mean? To let people know that we're organized. You know what I mean? In a way that brings that to the next generation and gets them wanting to march on City Hall and on Town Hall. Fuck marching on CVS and Target and these places that ain't do shit. Let's march on the governor's mansion. Let's march on City Hall. Let's march on the mayor's office. You know what I mean? When we can coordinate that nationally with hip hop protests and conscious hip hop music and presentations from brothers like me and you, we could change the narrative of not only the country, but the world. But it's only by getting together and putting, like the sister said before, putting our egos to the side and working together for the greater good, the common good, working together with people like each other to put this information out in a platform that's not just rambling. Like you see today, I started with the structure and the organization, but to set it in a way where we can open a conversation. But now we can keep this conversation going week to week, month to month, day to day, and opening it up to what I'll close with as far as my portion, you know what I mean, is how we summarize it, is that all of this information is not just, like I said before, to learn about the history, but also to learn how to become the best version of yourself. So what we found when we've done all this information and all these research, knowledge of self can be broken down into a few areas to best get us to understand it. First, the word self itself, S-E-L-F, we use as a breakdown to say that you are a spiritual entity in a living form, right? You are both the non-physical, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the desires, the dreams, and the physical, the living form. So when you realize that, one of the ways that Wayne Dyer said it, he says, you are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, right? So everything that the pioneers and the Bruce Lees and the JFKs and the Martin Luther Kings had to do had to come down to them balancing these areas of self. On the left half, you see the non-physical side, the spiritual, mental, and emotional. And on the right half, you see the physical side, physical, social, and financial. Each area is where we help you to rate yourself now on a scale of 1 to 10 on how to become the best version of yourself physically, the best version of yourself financially, the best version of yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and socially, meaning the type of people that you deal with. If you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of ghetto-minded, low-life thinking type of people, your life is not really going to escalate much beyond that. But when you find a group of individuals like this and you start connecting with like-minded, intellectual, thought-provoking, learned individuals, you start to elevate your thinking and elevate the way you see things. And now you can see greater opportunities that have always been in front of you, but you never would have been aware of if you weren't thinking on a higher level. Like how you can become you.com and start making your own money instead of having to do an OnlyFans or whatever they're trying to do. See, this for me, this is my OnlyFans. Right? I give you the preview on Facebook for the type of knowledge that I share. And then I invite you to this room and I take off my flesh and I show you my spirit and I show you my soul. This is what I'm trying to pass on to the next generation. You don't got to take off your clothes. You can take off the costume that they forced you to put on and start sharing that with individuals. And if I could do it, just a little brother from the Bronx trying to come up and pass this on for 25 years, then you can do it. If a little 12-year-old kid from India can do it, then you can do it. this is what it leads to. It's not just knowing the culture, it's knowing that we come from that culture, royalty passed down from ancient Egypt and Africa and the early days of man, all the way to now. We represent that, and now it's time to carry ourselves like that. And with that, this is why I wanted to bring this group together, this panel of knowledge individuals, plus many more that weren't able to make it, but will join us soon to begin these conversations, to start the year off with this kind of optimism and feeling and knowing that we can make a difference. And even though the world is messed up right now, we got things like this that allow us to connect to people like each other, and we can just start inviting more and more people. Right now, we do have it set up where these are open, free meetings every 2 weeks to invite everybody, but we also do have closed meetings for members only. It is a $9.99 monthly subscription, but that's where we get into more definition on building your own personal cipher, your own personal light plan, figuring out what your talents and your skills and passions are, figuring out what your bad habits are that are preventing you from succeeding and doing more. All of these things are part of what we talk about the collective. The conversations I've had with all these brothers have never been just about hip hop. It's always been about the betterment of people and mankind in general. So with that, it's an open discussion, but we did want to, I only want to limit myself to an hour topic and then open for discussion, but we can keep talking because this is stuff that we need to discuss and figure out and maybe set up a plan.
Oh.
You guys want to do another one next week? We'll do it next week. If you want to do it in 2 weeks, we'll do it in 2 weeks. Peace. Anything in closing?
Brother, I need the hookup. I want you to give me the hookup on that $9.99 because basically I just got upgraded in my position to second Malika due to the knowledge of self and what I do in my community. And basically I would like to, basically further learn more and get deeper into it because it's, my problem is frustration. That's my problem, frustration. When I'm trying to teach and you don't learn, I get frustrated because I feel like you should be open to learn what I'm trying to teach you.
I feel you.
Yeah, but not everybody is, you have to just be patient, I guess.
Right.
And that's,
and for some people, we just have to find that way. Like I've learned, for example, I talk about mumble rap sometimes, and sometimes I got to catch myself because I got to remember that the people we're trying to reach are the people that like mumble rap. And if you shit on their favorite mumble rapper, they ain't going to want to hear shit you have to say. You know what I mean? So sometimes I got to catch myself and really listen to the song that I really can't listen to, but listen to it to find one good line or one good bar or one good song on the album that I can use as an example to reach them. And when I can do that, I'm like, it's like Lil Yachty said on that song, ain't money but a thing, but life is everything. And they like, oh, you're right. Instead of that YOLO. So we got to find their level of understanding, the way to reach them. So if you notice,
just be creative.
They like watching a TV show that they always talking about. Find something in that TV show that you can use as an example.
Adapt. You have to be able to adapt to the personality and era of their age. Time and time again, I don't mean to jump in this, but time and time again, when I just graduated a master's degree in education, curriculum, and instruction. I design curriculum.
Congratulations.
All of it.
Congrats, brother. Congrats. That is key.
A PhD program. So I'll be a doctor in about 3 years in education. So I'll tell you, I have to be very careful sometimes because when I start talking to these individuals about hip hop, especially in Nevada, they have no idea what I'm talking about. They have no idea that who said G, who was DJ Molly, or who was the Terminator disc of 1985 on Snowflake Records. Who was that? Who was WH 5.9 FM? I grew up in a time when this stuff was just beginning. In 1980, a lot of these records were just 5 months old.
Right.
75, no record before that. But I got to be very careful. I got to catch myself because I can't. They don't know this, so I basically go into I go into a lot of. I talk about records, simple records. Like for example, my uncle was Mick Gillette of Tower of Power. That was my uncle. My good friend, my good friend Lenny Pickett is head of music in Saturday Night Live. He's the music director for Saturday Night Live. So I grew up, and I try to get to these cats maybe talking about an instrument like PRiZM was just saying. Talk about, maybe talk about a simple sampler, maybe. If these are people that I talk to, I gotta be very careful because I might just, I might overwhelm some of these guys. Even people of my age I overwhelm because and I know how it feels. Like my man, what's his name down here under me? He was talking about B-boy now, and he corrected some of the dates. He's exactly right because I remember. I have a good friend who knows Crazy Legs, and Crazy Legs told him the story about when he was given to him to basically expand on Rocksteady Crew in the 1980s, and he's exactly correct. Or people like I talk to DJs, I'll talk about people like Grandmaster Flowers and my man DJ WizKid. I grew up watching them. I watched these guys DJ. I watched them, and I can be very careful. I don't overwhelm people, so I try to keep it very simple. I don't want to, because some of these guys can't adapt to the different eras of hip hop. Like we're 50 years old. I got in hip hop at 9. I was in hip hop in January 2nd of 1980, and that's when I got in. I have an old calendar I should show you. It was marked the 2nd of January, and that's because the first rap record I ever heard in my life. The first rap record. It wasn't called hip hop back then because the term wasn't, just like the term sampling didn't enter into till 1980 by the Fair CMI group. So hip hop didn't exist as a term until 10 years later, until 1990, and that's when they ushered in the development of that term. Even though the term was already developed by Key Cowboy and many other. There was another MC. I forgot he had passed away. It slipped me. He used to perform at the Fever. Anyway, it'll come back. But anyway, I gotta be very careful sometimes because I don't want to overwhelm some people. And I don't want to shut them down. So if they like talking about Too Short, we'll check whom I know Todd Sharp, but I was not into gangster rap. I was into Spoonie G, who's the pioneer of that. But I was not into Too Short. I was into underground MCs, people like Coca Rock. That was
underground hip hop. I love it.
DJ, did my name DJ Disco Wiz. Disco Wiz, first Puerto Rican DJ and MC of all time. And it's amazing.
That's not true. It was somebody from what's his name's neighborhood, Disco King Mario. Oh man, what was his name?
Disco King Mario. That's right. I forgot. That's right. He's the first. He's Puerto Rican and African American. Thank you. I do.
Well, it wasn't Mario himself, but I have heard debates on that. I've heard he's his first DJ. It's on
Wayne's page. I forget the brother's name. He's from Edenwall. He actually predates this Wiz. Because Wiz started out with Kaz.
Yeah, he did.
So the question was it that Wiz was a little bit more successful? That he's the more common name?
Why? Yeah.
Well, that's the narrative in the culture. So that's the things that we have to correct, unfortunately.
Right. Or clarify. Because there could be an underground DJ that was emceeing and DJing first, but then he was doing it mainstream as the first mainstream. I mean, these are the things we can clarify and differentiate.
You're right. That's how for example, Curtis Blow is always notated. A lot of people I talk to, they go, "Oh, Curtis Blow." There was one MC before him that was slightly a couple months before, and that was King Tim III. Fatback, and a lot of people say, "Well, no, yes," but I know it's I'm aware on Spring Records. I look at these records like books. I look at these records. I look at the dates. Some of them are released. A lot of them were released in '79. A lot of these records were released in '79.
With King Tim and Sugar Hill.
Rap records, now there were tapes. My man
Sugar Hill was out when I was born.
Elvis Moreno, tape master, the first tape master. He was the first one to have that title. I do have a lot of his tapes from the past, but they were just cataloged. That's awesome. It's great. We have that all archived. But yeah, there's plenty. There's different ideas. For example, I get this idea. People tell me, Grandmaster Flash invented the mixer. No, he didn't. He didn't. The mixers already existed. They already existed.
Right. He made his own version of it because he didn't get the one they had in the store, so he figured out how to make his own. That's what he did.
Right. He did invent a flash former in 1985, Gemini. He did invent that with 2 buttons. And all you could do is just tap the buttons and it would create, it would on and off on that when you went back and forth on that
What
record.
about the slip mat? Did he invent the slip mat too?
The
He
slip
said he did. Yeah, he said he invented the slip mat, that he called it a wafer.
Phatz, he was one, you know, Grandmaster Flash is one of the first, him and, oh God, I have to say Jazzy J were one of the first to actually teach the idea of what the change was, the theory of mixing.
They were definitely more complete than Hurt and Mario.
Yes,
and Bam. They were more complete.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So real quick for a second, fellas, give me a moment, because we tend to dominate the conversation a lot.
Oh,
we have a few sisters on here too that I would like their feedback too. Marilyn, I know you're on here. I haven't really heard much from you. How are you doing, sister? How are things? What do you think?
am well. Just hanging in there. Had a rough day, you know, working.
I hear you. For those that don't know, Marilyn's one of those sisters that's on the front lines all the time. She is one of the activists that I have met in the past 10 years. COVID or not, she's out there arguing with councilmen and assemblymen and senators. She don't care. She's one of those individuals. I love her. She's a warrior queen. I'm always glad to have her participation. She's one of the biggest supporters of the things that we're doing here. So it's a pleasure to have you on here. And
pleasure.
It's people like her that we deserve her thanks for helping keeping things calmer and these type of
Hold tap.
She's out there leading the fight for real.
Yeah, we got to fight. And I also, in my line of work, I respond when someone has an opioid overdose in the emergency room, and I link them to services. I'm a harm reductionist. You know, I meet people where they're at, assist them in whatever way I can, give them referrals, try to link them on a path that, you know, they want to go. You know, like sometimes people are not ready to stop using drugs. So let's cut down. Let's find different ways to, you know, deal with whatever issues are going on. And eventually, as you see successes. So it's just as simple as planting a seed sometimes.
That's right.
True.
That's right.
And thank you. And we appreciate you and love you and people like you for doing that work. That's too hard for somebody like me to have to deal with. There's people that have that certain fortitude that can do that. And I always commend and thank and appreciate you for that.
That's cool. That's cool.
It's about love. I come with love all the time.
Truth, you always do. I'll testify to that. And what do you think of our discussion so far today from what you've heard?
I love it. I love it. It's the right thing. It's the time. The time is now. We got to grab it.
I agree. And it is important not only to have men, knowledgeable men who have this information also, but also compassionate, intelligent, lioness type of women like yourself here too. So thank you for taking the time. And we always invite you, all of you, always to, just like we check each other, especially the women check us. Let us know when we need to be checked and when we're saying something out of character or out of turn, or, you know, part of the conversation I kept meaning to allude to earlier with our brother Pluto is more about the females' roles in hip hop. Like we should definitely do a part of the pioneer era 74, 79, where we talk about more what the females' roles were, not only as MCs and producers, but B-girls and so on and so forth. So I want to make that more of a thing that's more empowering to all of you. So keep us on check with that as well.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
All right, and then we have a few others. The sister Passion Royale, she spoke a moment ago. Who's the other sister? Is that Honey Red? Nasha, you still with us? She might have checked out. But again, you know, this is not the thing where I want to narrate the conversation. I want to sort of outline the conversation that we can start leading it into a more productive, more fulfilling conversation that leads us to getting things done and passing on knowledge that actually makes a difference. Not just it's good to hear and it's nice to entertain, but I don't need nothing else. But that's a great opening conversation. I want to be there for the next one. I want to see how this can make things better, how I can use this in my life, how I can improve my family with it. And that's why we opened the conversation the way that we did today. As an intro, like I said, we will definitely be posting updates on the next couple meeting. If you guys want to do this again next Friday, you can text message me on Facebook, or Facebook is the best way to reach me. Let me know. Make sure you join Chosen Zulu Facebook. That's where we're going to be posting updates about all this information. But this is just an open conversation for the year to begin a series of these type of conversations that can help us not only to benefit ourselves by knowing it, but also promote our services, our products, our perspectives, sharing it, and finding ways to bring it to the next generation so they can learn it in their teens and 20s instead of when they're in their 40s and 50s like us. You know, anybody else feel free to contribute. Anything else before we get ready to close it out?
I'm just saying, you know, this is a great dialogue. A lot of incredible, talented people on here. You know, there's a few other people that I've seen that, you know, didn't chime in that are incredibly talented also as well. Definitely, you know, this is something, you know, keep this steam rolling, you know, whatever, you know, I can contribute and help, I'm willing to do so. You know, this is what it's about. You know, we're the gatekeepers of a lot of things. You know, we can put forth, like, you know, the culture and all that stuff, but then, you know, I've always said that, you know, everything that we do is a social commentary. You know, our presence is a social commentary. You know, we are a reflection of, based off of whether it be race or whether it be the culture that, you know, we align ourselves to. So, you know, we are representatives of all of that. You know, so we you know, we have to be very responsible for how we present ourselves. You know, there's so many facets in this culture. When you see someone, I think maybe like 1982, I stopped thinking, you know, what a hip hop person is supposed to look like or whatnot. I look at people like, you know, it's just so various because I've grown up in various situations. I've lived in all Spanish areas, I've lived in all white areas, and I've lived in all black areas. I've lived in DC, I've lived in Jersey, I've lived in New York for a little bit. And the thing about all of that is, like, you know,
go ahead, brother. I'm just speaking to my daughter. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. And seeing those different narratives, I've experienced so many things, you know, the good and the bad. You know, but you know, it's shaped me to the way I am, and it's made me, you know, the person that I am. You know, this past year I almost died, and then the year before that I almost died. And my attitude is like, when are we gonna still kick ass?
Right.
You know, like I stop pushing the narrative. I stop being brolic when I'm in the dirt.
Brilliant.
You know, I don't give up on what I'm trying to do in the dirt. I might get down, but I get back up
all the time.
You know, that's what this is all about. This is what we're all instilling in each other.
Right.
True. We also got my brother Victor on the line. You got a moment, brother? How you doing tonight? Victor, got we line.
Hey, peace. What's going on, everybody? Peace and blessings.
How you doing, Sam?
My name's Victor. Everybody knows me as Brother Enoch, Lost Tribe, New Jersey. I got on late. It's a pleasure. Please, peace, everybody. It's great to be on the call. First and foremost, brother PRiZM, man, thank you for inviting me. I apologize. I got on kind of late on the call, but for the time that I've been on the call, man, just to hear such great, you know what I'm saying, energy and knowledge being spread around, and to hear a beautiful balance between the kings and the queens here, you know, dropping some beautiful jewels. You know, hip hop for me, and I was just explaining to a sister right here, you know, hip hop for me, you know, it's always gonna root me to where it all started for me consciously. Where you know, I opened my third eye to, you know, figuring out, you know, what the world was like, you know, saying from with a larger lens, and I started to understand myself more, learning about my identity and you know, learning more about myself, gaining that knowledge of self. I could always go back to, you know, where it all started, and that was, you know, when I was initiated into the hip hop culture. You know, that culture, that spirit, that energy, that helped fuel such a movement around the world. You know, I could actually say I'm a part of that movement, and it has done so much for me. It has given so much for me. And I recall a couple of years back, you know, even Brother Pluto was with us over at NJIT, New Jersey Technology Institute in downtown Newark. We did our spiel of like a what was that, like a hip hop workshop for youth. And most of them were Latino immigrants that came from like Central South America. And we kind of give our life experiences and different elements of hip hop, like what we represented as hip hop, and you know, saying each of us and what it did for us, how it developed us, how it helped us, you know, to become the men that we were, you know, that we are today. And in those teachings, you know, those lessons, those jewels, that is so much of our struggle. Through that struggle, how we found ourselves, and how we were able to empower ourselves to do great things in our own lives to help us become, you know, saying greater for ourselves. We kind of use those teachings and kind of sharing with these youth. And, you know, this conversation kind of reminded me of like what that was like, you know, hearing each of you kind of give your tidbit on the culture itself. And it kind of made me think about, where am I at today? You know what I'm saying? I could always look back and thank hip hop for where I am at today, you know what I'm saying? And think about what can I do now in the work that I'm doing in the community, and how can I still continue to use hip hop to spread a positive message of empowerment and unity amongst the community, you know what I'm saying? And it kind of lit a fire in me again, because I kind of lost that focus. I ain't gonna lie. Some years ago, I kind of stepped away from just you know, talking all about hip hop, and I just got really focused in the housing justice work. I got really focused in environmental justice work, and you know, getting to connect with a lot of other great organizers and activists out there, and learning about strategies and learning how to build frameworks towards, you know, certain type of, you know, specific work that we wanted to get on, and strategizing with other organizers and activists from different states and cities to share ideas in the work that we were doing. And I kind of think about that when I think about this group today. There's a lot of us here that may share some great knowledge on certain work that perhaps we could kind of like, you know, build small little collectives to focus on different aspects of what we want to do in our community. And I kind of explained a little tidbit of it in the chat, talking about, you know, generational wealth, land banking and stuff like that, like buying land, right, and not just acquiring a house, but acquiring the property where the house is on. And not even just that, about teaching community about, you know what I'm saying, how to buy back the block. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways for us to use the laws that are in place that'll work for us. And it's a lot to it, but you know, like, you know, we could build. And I think this is a great collective, and I hope that this continues. And we could start setting up some little small sessions where we could kind of teach each other, know your rights, or even teach each other on specific, you know, knowledge that'll help build up any one of us. You know what I'm saying? If somebody got knowledge in how to build a business, that'll be great. Share with us. Let's talk about this. Let's, for instance, let's, as a collective, let's create a business. You know what I'm saying? If we want to talk about creating small, I don't know, if we want to talk about creating small cultural and spiritual, traditional kind of courses and classes for the community, how does that look like? And how do we work together to make sure that it's inclusive and it's transparent and it's not, you know, misleading anyone to believe anything else? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the culture is, with the truth and the facts, you know, things like that. You know, we could do so much. And I see that this group right here may be a great collective of like-minded individuals where we could kind of sharing things like that. Perhaps there's things going on in each one of your states or cities that perhaps I can kind of get going on out here in New Jersey. Perhaps there's something going on out here that I could drop some info, might inspire you guys to want to do something similar over there. How do you get it going? What did you do? You know, these type of things we could share with each other and kind of help guide each other to kind of create programs and things in our communities to help change, you know, the situations of what families are facing, especially even under the pandemic right now. So, you know, much love to y'all. to those of you who are healthcare workers, essential workers, much love, respect to y'all. Please keep safe. You know that new COVID mutated B.1.1.7 has hit the U.S. It's throughout the tri-state. It's on the islands already. It's spreading throughout the states. The UK has kind of given some serious warnings about it. It's a very terrible, you know, second wave of this mutated virus. So, you know, I want you guys to keep safe. Please practice properly using your PPEs.
Right.
Please make sure you just do your due diligence, keep yourself safe, and just follow the protocols. And if you got to be proactive, listen, we could, here's another idea, something that Zulu could do. We can create our own info sessions for our community neighborhoods. We can kind of teach them about properly, you know, real information about COVID and how to protect yourself, and kind of, you know, give them little things that they can do so they don't have to be feeling afraid stuck in the house, but they could still be able to live a normal day-to-day life, but just keeping themselves reserved and more protected so that they don't have to put themselves in any issues, you know, like get infected or something like that. But anyway,
the fear is spreading just as bad as the COVID.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
But can I'm supposed to take the vaccine on Wednesday, and I'm declining it.
Good for you. Don't take it because it will destroy you in 5 years. It will kill you, basically.
I work for the government, so
They want me. For the health district here in Reno, Nevada. Guess what? We have been on. I don't mean to interrupt, but yeah, I work for the health district here in Reno, Reno, Nevada, and we have done what, almost 1 million people in vaccination. Everybody's happy to get that vaccination, but me, I'm looking at them going, you're gonna shorten your life because it's time sensitive. It's a matter of time to activate. Like the brother, Pluto said about. Pluto was talking about the regarding the fear as well as the vaccine. He's correct on both sides because this is a virus kill. Is what this really is. This is
So what was your experience, Marilyn? What happened?
I thought about it. I did some research. It's not approved by the FDA. They don't know how long it can protect you. You can still get COVID through it. I've been working through through the pandemic. I've been in the ER. That's what my job entitles me to be.
Right.
And I tested negative. You know, so
I'll tell you. I mean, I don't know all the scientifics, but my advice is like, I think the vaccine should only be for people that are that sick. That's the only alternative for them. The rest of us ain't sick. We don't need to be taking it.
Right.
You know
I haven't gotten sick at all.
Right.
So I'm like, why am I going to put this in my body?
Right.
I mean, all my coworkers are like, oh, you stupid. You should take it. I said, no, I have, that's my choice. I have a choice.
Right.
I'm not mandated.
Absolutely.
I mean, if it comes down to my job mandating me, I'm gonna decline that too, because I feel I don't need it.
Right, but look, if they said that making people wear masks was against our constitutional rights, then the same law should apply to the vaccine, in my opinion. So I don't think you should be too worried about that.
I'm trying to eat healthy. I do my sea moss, my elderberry. Try to keep myself
oregano oil,
healthy as much as possible.
Oregano oil, yeah, that's good stuff.
Holistic. I'm taking care of my mental health because being in the ER is very difficult. It affects me. You know, when I'm watching these people on respirators, I'm watching these people come in all fucked up. They can't breathe. I mean, I see them come out the ambulance struggling. Like, it's hard. It's real hard. And it affects me. So I do my acupuncture. I'm aromatherapy. I'm taking care of myself because it's hard. This has been a hard year.
Yeah.
No, it is, sister. And that's why I want to create this kind of avenue where we could be here as a relief and a feel-good kind of thing after that long week, and know that there's people like us that are trying to help reduce the shit that you see in the ER by preventing, whether it's black on black violence or police on black violence or COVID on COVID violence. Like, we're trying to figure out ways to reduce this. To Brother Enoch, everything you said is exactly true and exactly why we formed this gathering here today. I specifically invited the individuals that spoke here because I felt like you guys needed to, like I said to Pluto, introduce you to these other brothers, these like-minded individuals, these knowledgeable people, these passionate people. Enoch, we haven't always had the most time to speak, but every time we do interact, I always feel that kindred spirit from you, even from the way that people speak about you and lost tribes and whatnot. And it's one of those things for me where we are those activists. We are those people in this generation that are passing this down in the example to the next generation, and especially sisters like Marilyn, who's not only on the front line in the ER room, but she's on the front line activism in front of the senator's face. They know her by first name type shit because she's that example of the type of people that we're supposed to be and the type of people that Brother Malik One wrote about in his book, Peace in Times of War, as hip hop citizens, how we're supposed to be activated and passing this information down. So for me, this is part of the reason why way back when we decided to become Chosen Network, it was for this reason, so that way we can work with people, different people of different groups without you feeling like you betrayed your chapter or your street organization or your gang or whatever, because this is a company. You know what I mean? We got together specifically to form a coalition of groups and knowledgeable individuals that could pass on a myriad of information to anyone who's interested. So if you have financial awareness and history, like one of the things we talk about, like I mentioned earlier, the financial aspect of self, how to build wealth, how to make your money work for you, learning about investing, mutual, stocks, real estate, gold, bullion, all those things. We want to bring in specialists and people that know about all of that to pass that on to us, because they don't teach us that in grade school or elementary school or middle school or juniors, high school or high school, or even college if we don't elect it. You know what I mean? So we have to be the source of this type of information for each other. So for me, it's not hip hop is being used as a trick to really teach them, haha, we're going to teach you knowledge of self instead. But through teaching them hip hop, we're going to teach them knowledge of self and teach them how the pioneers and the successful businessmen like Jay-Z and Diddy, how did they do that? They applied these skills on knowledge of self. They figured out what their passion, what their talents, what their abilities, what their capabilities, what they had in their network, that they could put together track masters and start producing groups for other people. I'm not even a producer, but now I'm an executive producer on 200 songs. They started figuring out how they could use their unique talents and skills to build something around that. And because the industry owns that, they don't share that with us. But by reading their story and having 10 minds that have read 1,000 stories each, we could put all that information together and give people an outline and a plan and a hope and a dream and a platform and a way of getting it, and not only getting there, but passing it on to the next generation.
Yep.
So definitely it's people like you that all make this possible, that make it worthwhile, that convince us we're not the only ones. It's not just us. This is not a fad that's going away. There's always going to be a need for a group like us, but like Jesus did with the parables, he updated the information that already existed before he was born and turned them into parables, which were modern day translations for that people in that time period to understand. Now, those parables are still 100% true, but it's 2,000 years later, we can use a TV show as a parable, or a song as a parable, or a commercial as a parable. We can use anything that's a metaphor to reach them and use that as an example to why this information is relevant, to help them get on the right path, to help them start living in their higher self, to help them start doing better for themselves and their family and their wives and their relationships and their community and their job, to the point that they become managers and directors and vice presidents and have hopes other than the fact that they got to hustle 2 jobs or hustle on the side in order to get ahead, but that they can find a legitimate way by working with people like us to start developing multiple sources of income. One of the things we teach is life is a hustle and you got to have more than one. But because today's technology, you can do it legitimately. I could do 10 different Zoom groups on 10 different subjects and be making money on each one and whatnot. You can do things in different ways. You don't have to pick just one path anymore. You can have a full-time job and an Instagram account where you're promoting these services or products or whatever it is. These are the things we want to start trying to teach. So with that, last thing I would ask for somebody to speak who hasn't spoke yet, if possible. I know you went to the doctor today, my brother Asa. Anything you want to contribute today or that you're capable of speaking?
Yeah, I'm capable of speaking. You can hear me?
Yep.
Peace, peace.
Brother.
Peace, everyone. Peace. I'm sorry. I didn't really want to put on the video. I don't look as handsome as I usually do. You know. But earlier, yeah, I did take a tooth out. Basically, what I can get from all of this is that we was all chosen for a purpose. You know. Us being here tonight is for a purpose. Hip hop was created for a purpose. You know, a lot of us know that we've been here for a purpose, but sometimes we lose that faith We lose that hope, you know, with our daily, you know, with ourselves or people around us and stuff. So I can actually say that this is highly needed. Hip hop is highly needed. The culture, the knowledge that it brings is highly needed. And a lot of you said a lot of great things today. And I would hope that we can continue to do this because this is phenomenal. This is awesome. There aren't that many people, guys, out there that are doing this, you know? So I commend Marilyn, I commend Passion, I commend Eridu, you know, I commend all of you, Phatz, you know, this is what helped save our lives. You know, I can say that hip hop saved my life in many multiple ways. It saved my life in relationships with my kids, you know, with myself. Sometimes I don't want to even live anymore. And hip hop, the culture has brought me back, whether it's art, whether it's poetry, whether it's speaking or hearing something about my sister Marilyn, or hearing something about my brother Eridu, something that they're doing in life and stuff. It brings it all back into perspective. So that's why we're here today. This is what we're asking you all, and we thank you all for coming here. We want to continue to bring this back into perspective for many others. A lot of us, yes, are 40, 50 years old and stuff like that. And when we first joined, we were 12, we were 13, you know, we were youth. This is a youthful organization. Even though there's many adults, many people that are older, this is a youthful organization, it's a youthful culture. You know, the spirituality and the culture combined together is what keeps us young. It's what keeps us going. And without things like this, you know, it can be a lot worse. So I just wanted really wanted to bring that to point. Basically, we each in this call have a purpose. What is your purpose? How are you going to bring it to the world? Do you want to bring it to the world? You know, you have to ask yourself, do you just want it for yourself and your family, or do you want it for the world? There's no right or wrong answer. But the thing is that we're gathering Chosens, gathering Zulus, hip hoppers, individuals alike like us to do this job, you know? Not to reiterate, it's very hard out here. The pandemic, the crisis is going on. You know, sometimes, you know, your own family, your own friends don't believe in you, you know, or maybe you have children, young or older, and, you know, you worry and you protect them and pass on to them what we've learned, you understand? And Passion, she said that it may be hard to get to teach others. You know, how can you teach ignorance? The best way, all of you said it great, the best way is basically by your actions, you know, by being yourself. You know, what do you have inside, and what you become yourself. When people see that, even though they might not tell you, they might not be verbal on it, but it's actually changing that person next to you or beside you, you know, from the things that they hear that you do. And it might not seem like you're making change in your family, in your community, with those around you that you want to teach, your peers, you know, the youth, but they are listening. You know, they're listening because our minds is like computers. We absorb a lot of things in. So I'm glad that we can resonate with this vibration, and I hope and I ask you all to continue to do this, and for us to come back to this forum and make other forums together so that we could continue to bring this to the world and continue to bring everything into focus. We've lost a lot. We've lost a lot of people. We've lost ourselves. You know, we lost years, some years that we can't get back, but we can make the next years much better, and we could give ourselves more years. We kind of let go of the other years. We can't get that back, but we could get more years. How? By living ourselves, living with others, and teaching. Nobody's better than nobody. You know, you all have great knowledge, great culture. You know, Mike One, Eridu, Pluto, Phatz, Marilyn, Passion, the brothers that was here from Chosen Nation, from Chosen, you know, all of us can do something. All right. So I just thank you all. And I tend to want to give up, but I can't. Why? Because I think of each of you, and I think about, nah, PRiZM ain't gonna let me fall like that. My brothers and my sisters ain't gonna let me fall like that. You know, we have a job, but it's not so hard when we have such a great collective like us. All right. So I love you all. Let's keep this, please. I mean, this is not just a one-a-day thing for me, not saying that it is for you. It's a 24/7 thing. It's a 24/7 job. You know, when you don't know something, ask the question. When you think you don't know enough, know more. PRiZM and a lot of my business colleagues tell me, if you read the 5 top books in any field, you would know more than most of the people around you, and you will be more successful. You know, so this is why we're here, and I thank you for helping me be successful, for helping us be successful, and let's continue to show others how to be successful and why we love hip hop and this culture, and it will never die. Peace.
Peace, peace, peace.
Peace, brother.
True words never been spoken, brother. Truth and truth. And he's paraphrasing one of the things that I've always told the brothers, and I'll share it the same way with you. That you know, we have this meeting every 2 weeks, open for everybody to, you know, to come and participate. And then we also have our chosen meetings with our family and our network and our teams putting this together. But like I told them, you're not just chosen when you come to the meeting. You're chosen 24/7. Every moment of your life, you're representing your culture, your background, your history, not just us as a group, but as the chosen people. You know, for those that don't know, Zulu taught means the heavens. And Ama Zulu are the people of the heavens. And the people of the heavens, in English, we call them chosen. So we just paraphrase our name into English so that way you can understand you are the chosen. And our biggest first lesson is that you have to choose to be chosen. God already, or the universe, or whatever you want to call it, already blessed you with the certain talents and skills and passions and interests and desires that you are unique to you. It's up to you to choose to act on them and to activate them. And for us, hip hop is part of that. But again, it's part of that. It might have been the door that opened us into our activism work or our knowledge of self-work or our community work or whatever it is. But this is the common ground that we stand on, and we can use as a platform to start reaching everybody else out there that might be like us or might want to join something like this, but they don't know where to go. I want to give them an option that is safe, that is peaceful, that is neutral. Chosen is not about taking any sides. We're always teaching there's only one side, the people. That's it. The people and the youth is our main focus. So everything we do is to focus on building on that one side, the people and the youth. I'm not Democrat or Republican. I'm people. You feel me? I want to do what's best for the people. It's going to help us keep safe. It's going to help us be more successful. It's going to help us be more independent. And really, what's going to help us be more fulfilling, happy beings and successful beings. I want us to be happy, not angry. I want us to be successful and comfortable on our own properties, not in apartments and projects for the rest of our generation. I mean, I want us to have our own. And that's like the brother said, we want to get together, build a collective, start putting funds together so we have money to go get our own property, to go get our own recording studios, our own record stations, our own department stores, our own supermarkets, and so on and so forth. But it starts with putting minds like ours together. So let this be the first of many to come. Thank you for attending and your participation and your words and your information and reminding people like me and Asa that we're not alone, that it hasn't been 25 years in vain, that COVID messed things up, but it's actually giving us an opportunity to make things better and stronger, and connect to more people. Because now we don't just have to reach people in the Bronx and New York, we can reach people in Nevada or California, you know, or Brazil or Philippines like we have on this call tonight. So thank you all. This is the first of many. Definitely stay in touch with us, stay in touch with me. I want to collaborate and start organizing a series, a conference. So the next call, we can set up Phatz to introduce himself. The call after that, we can introduce Brother Malik to introduce himself, and so on and so forth. Let's create this as a platform that not only we can all build on, but we can duplicate. Thank you all for your time and your participation and contribution, and for letting us know that we're not alone. Thank you.
Peace. Thank you.
Peace, y'all. Good meeting.
Peace.
Blessings. Have a wonderful year. Let's make it better than last year.
Peace and blessings to everyone.
All right.
Same here. We got some work to do, Chosen. Love you, hip hoppers. Peace.
Ace, take care. Acer and PRiZM, may Elohim continue to bless you and bless the learning community of the hip hop culture. We're just, this is the beginning of it. Amen to that.
Thank you. Amen.
You,
God bless you.
Bless y'all.
Peace, kings. Peace, queens.
Peace.